game by double digits.
Mm-hmm. And the second highest average margin of victory. They came in like a point or two underneath what North Carolina did in, I think it was 09. I think they averaged exactly 20 points per win.
Jesus.
They lost 8 games in the Big East.
I can already tell you David's really hot.
Yeah, he's turning him down. That's why your mic was cutting in and out yesterday because it was too high.
Your mic meaning Mark's mic.
Mine.
Or like the
Yes,
studio mic, yeah.
I lowered it way down, and I think it fixed it.
Whew.
Gymnastics practice right into softball practice last night. Tonight, soccer practice. Tomorrow, softball game. Thursday, soccer practice.
You guys getting ready for a World Cup qualifier? A lot of practice.
CONCACAF.
Yeah, I can't ever believe you're only a good 24 hours late with that. It's a big number. Actually, it's not the rating. It was 9.9 million.
How did last year do?
For the women?
Oh, 9.9 was for the women?
Yeah, 9.9 million people watched LSU Iowa on average.
Wow.
Mhm.
Peaked at 12.6.
That's good.
No, that's
It's
historic.
historic. Yeah, historic.
Now, it's on ABC. People who don't think it makes a difference. You know, game was in prime time on ESPN last year.
30 seconds.
Did half the audience. Not even. And it was South Carolina, UConn. And it did less than half.
Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. It is the first Tuesday of the month. We switch from madness to the Masters. Hope your week got off to a good start. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. A terrific show lined up once again today. David Samson, Pat Kirwan, our buddy Ron Sirak, as we dive into the Masters a bit. Top of the morning to you, Mark. Looks like you got a golf shirt on. Are you playing after the show?
That's the plan, David. I could take a nap after the show, but I'm going to play golf instead. It was a long Monday. That's one way to start the week. But we have a champion, and that champion is UConn, and they left no doubt again last night.
Becoming the fifth team to win all 6 of their tournament games by double digits. They had the second highest margin of victory on average of all the men's champions historically. Only the '09 Tar Heels beat their opponents by ever so slightly more points on average than did UConn, who beat their 6 foes by an average of 20 points per game. Mark, what's remarkable to me is they got beat 8 times in the Big East.
And went through a funk.
Right.
It looked like they couldn't even play.
Marquette had their number.
But they righted the ship in February and never looked back.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they went out. I think Marquette took them out early in the Big East tournament, right? In the quarters, or at least the semis. I thought it was the quarters. And so for whatever, Big East teams had no problem with them. Everybody else they destroyed. I think they won their non-conference games this year by an average of over 20 points a game. So hats off to UConn. Strange resume over the last quarter century. 5 championships, missed the tournament 8 times.
Well, Bobby Regan said on our show yesterday, I was thinking it before he said it, they have far more championships, but it's very Florida Marlin-esque.
They're very, that's all or nothing, but, not only that, 8 times they didn't make it, and like 8 times they were one and done. But if they get going, if the train can leave the station, look out. 6 Final Fours and 5 titles. And that doesn't even include the year that Larrañaga and George Mason beat them in the Elite Eight in '06. And they were heavily favored that year. So, but that's number 5 for UConn, blue blood, or what was the expression he also used? New blood.
And I like that. If you want blue bloods that have to go back to the last century and well into the last century, if you want to call them a blue blood, that's fine. But UConn's certainly a new blood. There is no doubt about it.
Didn't Bobby Regan also say, I don't know if I'd call him a blue blood, maybe a teal blood.
Right.
But either way, the Big East feeling their oats, feeling really good about their conference going forward also. They think they're going to be better in the next couple of years as a conference. This just in. They were pretty good this year.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're blue bloods, new bloods, or teal bloods, but they're cold-blooded when they play.
There you go. Look at you. Nice. It's like you were Nance and his producer and you scripted that sucker out. Did you stay up for that, by the way?
I was dozing in the second half. I mean, I made it till the end, but I can't say that I was completely 100% there for the entire second half.
See, I'm not a one shining moment guy anymore. When I was younger, I thought it was cool. And then, whatever.
My problem is I love the tribute. I hate the song. The song stinks. I know everybody loves it. I love seeing the highlight montage. I just wish we had a better song.
There are certain years in which if I really get caught up in the tournament, and this would have been one of them, but to be honest, the margin was too big at the half. The morning show awaits. I packed it in at halftime. And, I taped it in case, if something dramatic had happened. I would have been watching it at 4:20 this morning. But so I didn't see Nance sign off, or the, one shining moment or anything like that. I wasn't emotional about Jim Nance. I like Nance, but I mean, come on, 32 years. I mean, that's an amazing run. He's very fortunate to have been in the right place at the right time. And so, now it'll be Ian Eagle, and Ian should get about, 10, 12, 15 years out of this sucker because he's in his early 50s.
And it's not like Nance is leaving us.
Oh,
Nance is just leaving the tournament. We'll still get a lot of Jim.
Hello, friends. Yes, doing the Masters this weekend, and he's got a Super Bowl this year, which I think is number 7 for him, 6 or 7, something like that. He's done a lot. He's going to end up with like 9 or 10 by the time his days are done, which I think might end up being second all time to Summerall by the time Nance is done. Because with Joe leaving Fox, Joe would have been at least one ahead of Jim. Like if their careers, and Joe's nearly 10 years younger. So Joe would have ended up with more Super Bowls than Jim if he had stayed at Fox. But now going to ABC, Nance is probably going to pass him on the most Super Bowls called list.
One of the other things we were paying attention to was the ticket prices.
Yes.
For yesterday's game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was all over it. The bottom end tickets went up slightly. Yesterday morning, you could have got a ticket for $40. By the time tip came, it was around 60, 65. But the lower bowl tickets stayed steady. You could sit in the lower bowl at tip for $115.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. National championship game basically for $100. That'll work. Show up with $250, and that'll get you and your buddy in the door, and maybe each of you with a beverage in your hand. You know, that'll work.
I have a buddy who went to the game and said there was a lot of open space in the nosebleeds. A lot.
Yeah. Don't know how there couldn't have been. There was space available on Saturday. How could there not be space available on Monday?
Right.
But I have to admit, I found myself longing for FAU a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong. UConn was beating whoever they played. But I just found myself, especially when San Diego State, went back to being San Diego State and missing their perimeter shots. And I was thinking to myself, well, FAU's got to be laughing right now. You guys shot 50% from beyond the arc against them, okay? And you couldn't put it in the ocean right now if you were standing in it. So this is cute.
And, it starts out, I think, first 5 or 6 shots are made, or 6 of the first 7 shots are made. Both teams are making shots, and you're like, all right, what do we got here?
Right.
And then San Diego State missed 11 in a row.
Yeah.
11. And that was, they got it to 5 after that, and then another 9-0 run right before the half. And that was about all she wrote.
Matt Bradley from San Diego State, we had said heading into the semifinal against FAU, our big concern, he was their leading scorer. He had 3 subpar games in a row, 2 bad games in a row. What are the odds he's going to have another one? And sure enough, he played really well against FAU, and he hit 3 early threes. Yeah. 0 for beyond the arc last night for Matt Bradley in San Diego State.
Worst shooting performance. I think San Diego State shot 32% from the floor. They averaged 44% for the season. And a lot of that credit UConn. Their defense was tremendous.
Yeah, it was, but it's not like FAU didn't have hands in people's faces either. I mean, UConn deserves a lot of credit. I don't know if you can give them all the credit for 32%. I think some of it was just the Aztecs. We're not a great offensive team. And you give us the ball enough times, we'll prove it. So, and really, if you look at it, I mean, they scored, 72 against FAU, and what they have last night, like 58, 59. So, it's about a 13-point difference. What is that? That's a handful of threes. A handful of threes, and also, in their case, they didn't have that 6-minute stretch where they grabbed every rebound and got every foul and hit half their free throws. So, you put 2 or 3 threes along with that little 6-minute stretch together, and that's basically the difference. But hats off to UConn. They did what most people thought they were going to do heading into the weekend. I mean, they thought this sucker was over when they whacked Gonzaga. And also, even though we, more than most, had been pounding the table that anything could happen in this year's tournament, we said in mid-February that this type of tournament was most likely coming our way. There was very little difference between Team 10 and Team 40. But if you look at UConn's draw, as it turned out, they faced a 5 in the second round. They got an 8 in the Sweet 16. They got a 3 in the Elite 8. Okay. They get a 5 and a 5. I mean, the highest seeded team they faced was a 3 to win the national championship. That's unusual. I mean, look at Miami alone. Miami had to beat a 1, a 2, and a 4 just to get to the Final Four.
And that's normal if you're a 4 or 5 seed. That's what you have to go through in order to get to the Final Four. But things broke well for UConn.
The one break
and they took
caught.
advantage.
The one break they caught. They didn't have to play Kansas in the Sweet 16. Would that have been the team that would have taken them out? Did Arkansas's upset of Kansas really pave the way for UConn? Would that have been the game, especially since Bill Self likely would have been back for Kansas on the sidelines? They would have had 5-6 days to prepare for UConn. Would that have been the game? And when the draw went their way, much like when FAU didn't have to play Purdue, it's like, wait, we get a 16 seed? All righty then. We'll take this from here. How many people watching the men's game last night going, man, I wish the women's game was on? No?
I tell you what, I went to the driving range, hit balls yesterday. All anybody wanted to talk about was the women's game. It's all anybody had on their mind. It blew me away.
That's a great day for women's sports and women's college basketball specifically. We'll talk more about it on the other side. The ratings are in. The fallout continues. The starting 5 in 25 minutes here on Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I think it was Canada Relief that asked the question, why did Angel Reese win most outstanding player of the tournament? Clark averaged 31 points per game, 5 rebounds, 10 assists.
Only for the Final Four. The most outstanding players it's the Final Four.
Oh, I thought it was for the tournament.
No, it's for the Final Four. Now, you could argue that Clark should have won it anyway. She scored 71 points.
Right. And had 16 assists.
But what they often do, unless there's a player who just outshines them, they usually just pick the best player on the best team.
Right.
And they do that because historically they want people 5, 10, and 20 years from now to look and go, oh. Also, women's basketball is so much more political, maybe than any other NCAA sport. The politics in women's hoops, I think, equals the politics in all the other sports combined.
Oh, man. In LSU's second round win, Angel Reese had a 25-24 game with 6 blocks and 3 steals. That's
okay. Obviously, there are 25 teams ranked at the end of the year in women's college basketball. There are 6 power conferences, the Power 5 and the Big East. How many schools not from the Power 6 made the final top 25 in women's college basketball?
0.
Well, no, Florida Gulf Coast is 1. So,
and there you have it.
Yeah, I didn't know if a San Diego or South Dakota or somebody that you know who the usual suspects are that can sneak in.
Gonzaga was just out of the top 25. South Florida would have been 28th. UNLV, South Dakota State, teams like that.
Right.
Right. So that's also where women's college basketball is at least a generation, maybe even longer.
Well, and it may stay that way forever because of the scholarships. If you just take 2 scholarships per school, the extra, that's 30 I mean, that's, just in the SEC, that's 30 scholarships. In the Big Ten, that's another 34 scholarships.
And if you do the
scholarships,
and if you do the Power 6, that's nearly 150. It's 140 to 150 players who don't sprinkle down.
10 seconds.
That's a lot of players.
Damn right it is. And that's the difference. One of the big 2 differences.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
It's 21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. David Samson at the top of the hour. Ron Sirak in a little more than an hour as we begin to look ahead to the Masters. And Pat Kirwan will join us to talk all things NFL at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Reminder, we are taking Friday off. We are taking Good Friday off. A couple of good Catholics being good Catholics. And believe me, that is not always the case. Right?
Well, speak for yourself, David.
Listen, despite your wife's best efforts, okay, I
looked up after I said that. I was afraid a lightning bolt was coming down. I literally said that. What are you saying? Why would you challenge? Why would you even tempt? Take you out right now, man.
Even the big fella's going, it's early. I'll let it slide. Starting 5 coming up in a little more than 15 minutes. Well, the ratings are in. And, hey, it turns out a lot of people watched that women's college basketball game, huh?
Did they ever?
9.9 million was the final number. 9.9 million. To give you an example as to, that's more than watch Thursday Night Football on average this year on Amazon. Amazon did about 9.6 on average. Now, the year before, when it was on Fox, it did in the 13 to 14 million range. But last year, Thursday Night Football did 9.6 million on average. Iowa LSU outranked Thursday Night Football.
That's and that the NBA Finals doesn't get to those numbers, does it? Until the Game 7 type situation.
Well, we can get to that. By the way, it outrated this year's Daytona 500 by nearly 2 million. The only bowl game that wasn't a semifinal or the championship game, Mark, the only bowl game that had more viewers than LSU Iowa, the Rose Bowl had 10.2 million. You know, that 5 o'clock slot. Penn State, Utah did a shade over 10 million. Just edged it out. Otherwise, all the sugar, the orange, the cotton. By the way, the Big 12, Pac-12, ACC title games, LSU, Alabama, Notre Dame, USC. Yeah, it all got beat like a drum, by the way. The Alabama A&M primetime game. All right, on CBS, which came down to the final play, by the way. Yeah, women's college hoops drilled it. So,
wow.
Yep. By the way, hasn't been a hockey game, has not been a hockey game that has outrated LSU, Iowa since 1973. Has not been an NHL game that's outrated the women's college basketball final Sunday afternoon. Now, I do think a significant tip of the hat goes to it was on network television. And I know all of us sports fans say, it doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Thank you,
It
Mark.
just does.
Yeah, it really does.
It matters to the tune of about 2 million people.
Last year's women's final was South Carolina, UConn. There is no bigger draw in that sport, or at least there wasn't until Caitlin Clark, than UConn. The game was on a Sunday night on ESPN. That's as good a slot as they can get. It did a little less than 5 million on average. This game did double the rating, 3:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday, but it was on ABC. When in doubt, and you can go 3 letters versus 4. If you're a sport, you want them to go 3. We're just saying. And no numbers involved either. FS1s, ESPN2s, no. 3 over 4 and no numbers. Thank you very much. So, I'll tell you, I'll make you a prediction. Obviously, we have no idea who's going to play next year. The women's final next year will be Sunday night on ABC. I think they'll commit to it right now. They'll put it 8 o'clock Sunday night on ABC. Boom. It would have gone up against the Country Music Awards, I think, on CBS or some country award show.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but that's my prediction. I think they'll say, you know what? Let's put it in prime time, see what it does.
And controversy will not end with this game being over. Because apparently women's sports need participation trophies.
Well,
at least according to the First Lady.
Right. Yep.
First Lady, when asked about the game, she said, I know we'll have the champions come to the White House. So we hope LSU will come. But, I'm going to tell Joe I think Iowa should come because they played such a good game. Jill, I think I speak for most of America right now when I say, shut up! Shut up, shut up, shut up! This is America. You know who goes to the White House? Winners. Caitlin Clark was wonderful. It was a spectacular run. I can't wait to watch her play basketball next year. She did not win the last game. She's not invited to the White House. That's the way this works.
Best intentions, Mark. First Lady was well intended there. Okay, but Yeah. Just about everybody's like, no, not how it works. Besides, the champions aren't going to feel good that the runner-ups get to go. No.
Oh, in fact, Angel Reese called it a joke, and she's right. It is a joke.
Right.
It's a disgustingly bad joke.
And they'll try to do it too.
We'll see. I could have just,
I hope not.
If they invite the other one, I hope Kim Mulkey says we're not coming. No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
I'm with you on that. Oh, man.
If I was the Iowa women's team, it's tough to say no to the White House. I think I would call them up back channel and go, yeah, that's not how it works. It's not a good look for you. Won't be a good look for us, believe it or not. You'll put us in a bad spot. Okay. We appreciate it. Thank you. Glad you're a fan. If you want, you can come to a game next year. Okay. In fact, we can give you the schedule right now. Pick one of these 3-4 dates. In fact, your husband's probably going to try to run for re-election again. They got this, Iowa thing. Who knows? You may just want to spend a Saturday afternoon at one of our games.
Might want to come to some summer practices, actually.
Yeah, whatever.
Affiliating with this team in Iowa is a positive for you. I get it.
So,
participation trophies for the White House. What the hell is the world coming to?
So, this is what happens, and you wonder why it is they script everything in politics. Because this is what happens when somebody just kind of flies off the handle and goes, "I have to admit, I liked watching Caitlin Clark in Iowa so much. Maybe they get to come." You could, any of the advisors who know anything about sports were like, "Oh no, you couldn't keep that on the inside, huh? You had to say that out loud." Dr. Biden, could you come on here for a minute? We need to explain something to you. This is how it works.
To the winners go the spoils.
Correct.
That's the way this works.
Right. Yep. I'm not even going to get into the whole post-game controversy, make this a black-white thing, please, no. LSU may be offended. They may say no. Just, ex-nay on the invitation A.
The agony of defeat.
Miller and Moulton, certainly not getting invited to the White House. We're barely invited to anyone's house. We'll have the starting five coming up on the other side. Thanking you so much for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters.
Waffle
Insist
House.
on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Sometimes the Bidens just make it too easy, man. Too easy to clown on them. Like, seriously?
That's fantastic. I'm looking at this thread of Stuart Mandel that's got all the women's numbers, David.
Mm-hmm.
And Sportico put something on there, and then just some dude, Professor Shine, says the Caitlin Clark effect. She should be doing the Affleck commercials. Affleck responds. Now there's an idea.
Mm. I have to admit, I'm liking Danny Hurley more and more. Did you catch his quote after the game? There's a certain level of validation that comes with this. Maybe I don't do a great job of kissing the media's ass and presenting an image that's likable, but I am who I am. I'm from Jersey City. That's how people in Jersey City act.
Taking a day off, Ambient Heat. It's our first day off that we've taken since the Friday after Thanksgiving weekend. That's why we're taking a day.
Yeah, really. How about because we want to?
That's why.
God almighty. There are no two people who do a show more than Miller and Moulton. Seriously. We don't take 10 shows off all year. Yeah, us too, brown chicken.
I forgot. Were LSU underdogs going into that game?
They were.
Yeah, by 3.
By 3. Okay.
You're part of the community, Ambien. Paul, you really can't. It's lazy. Yeah, that's the only time. And we've debated whether or not we should
10
do
seconds.
a Black Friday show.
Here we go.
If we had it sponsored.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour, David Samson will join us at the top of the hour. Ron Sirak will join us 1 hour from now. Pat Kirwan at the top of the 8 o'clock hour to talk all things NFL. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. A reminder, we'll be all Friday. Taking Good Friday off. We don't take many days off. Just giving you a heads up. By the way, Mark, you took us into break last segment, and you said, because we were talking about the First Lady and her throwing out there, hey, we know LSU's going to come, but, maybe Iowa can come to the White House too. They were fun. And she's getting a lot of grief for that because that's not how it works. And you said something to the effect of Miller and Moulton not going to be invited to the White House.
Or any house for that matter.
How about a Waffle House? You think we can get invited to a Waffle House?
You're always invited to the Waffle House.
Do you think Felipe and his young lady, did they help our cause, hurt our cause? I would like to think when they went, it helped our cause.
Those doors are always open, David.
Okay.
24/7.
All right. Good to know.
Morning. Doesn't matter. 2 in the afternoon. Morning.
Time now for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
Man, wouldn't it be great if the Starting Five was brought to you by the Waffle House?
It'd be nice if something was brought to you by something.
It's my goal
Really
for
would.
April is to have the Starting Five brought to you by something.
It's my goal by football season. I think we're going to need about 4 or 5 months to try to get things sponsored. Okay.
But if you're interested, give us a call.
Yeah. Because now apparently we're back in charge of the show.
Everything.
We let others be in charge for a year and a half. They nearly ran us into the ground. Now we're going to take our shot at it and see if we can't save this third act.
We went all Al Haig the other day.
We did.
Got to be old enough to remember that, but if you do, that's who we are.
Right. We're in charge here.
Just
We're in
ask
charge
us.
here. UConn's in charge of men's college basketball. They whooped up on San Diego State 76-59. They won every game of the tournament by 10 or more points. They're the 5th team to do that. Their margin of victory of 20 points per game, the 2nd biggest ever in men's tournament history. They had 3 guys in double figures. Newton with 19 and 10, Sonoga with 17 and 10, Jordan Hankins, with 16. And if there was one key moment in this game, San Diego State cut it to 5 with 5.5 to play. And then UConn went on a 9-0 run to put the game away. 76-59. It's their 5th championship. And hats off to UConn. The women's final numbers were in. LSU's win over Iowa. All right. 9.9 million viewers. More than double who watched South Carolina beat UConn the year before. More people watched LSU Iowa women than watched the Daytona 500, than watched Thursday Night Football on Amazon. You get the idea. It was really good numbers for a sport and genre, quite frankly, that, they could use it, especially since they're in the middle of renegotiating a new TV deal. Okay, Caitlin Clark could turn out to be the Tiger Woods of women's college basketball for the amount of money she may make women's hoops down the road. Final women's top 25 poll was out. The difference between men's and women's college basketball never more apparent. There was only one non-Power 6 school ranked in the top 25 of women's basketball. You got the Power 5 in the Big East. And obviously in men's college basketball, you got San Diego State, FAU, Gonzaga, Houston, right. FGCU, the only non-Power 6 school ranked in the final top 25 of women's college hoops. That's the big difference. One of the two in men's and women's basketball is there really is no middle class, if you will. They're doing all they can to keep it from ever happening.
And they get 2 more scholarships on the women's sides than men's. That's a lot of girls at the end of the day that are getting scholarships in Power 5 conferences that don't trickle down to the rest of the sport.
Miami finished 18th in the final coaches poll, FGCU 24th, the 2 Florida schools. South Florida, a little bit of a surprise. They did not end up ranked. Major League Baseball, did you see the incident over the weekend between Anthony Rendon of the Angels and an Oakland A's fan?
I did.
So if you didn't see it, the Angels walk off behind home plate, and some of the A's fans were heckling them. And Rendon of the Angels not very happy with what one of the A's fans said. So he stopped and he asked the fan, come over here. Come over here. What'd you say? And so the fan, who was like 15 feet away from him, came right down and was only separated by a fence. Rendon reached under the fence and grabbed the fan's shirt and pulled him right up against the fence. And basically said, next time, blah, 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 blah. Major League Baseball suspended him 4 games. Said you can't be reaching into the stands and accosting fans.
I have to be brutally frank here. How the hell can it only be 4 games for putting your hands on a fan? Come on.
We'll talk to David Samson about it. Coming up at the top of the hour. To his credit, when the incident happened, he immediately tweeted out and said, he's going to be suspended. So it took baseball a little while. All right. They gave it the weekend, but Rendon suspended for 4 games. There are still 2 unbeaten teams in Major League Baseball, Mark, and one of them's the Tampa Bay Rays. They're 4-0, 6-2 winners over Washington. Their first ever 4-0 start. Okay.
How about that?
Ha ha. Meanwhile, the Twins are still unbeaten. 11-1 winners over the Marlins. Remember we had the Marlins guy on opening day?
Yes.
And he said a lot of things. He said, I know what a good team looks like. This is not a good team. But he also said, Johnny Cueto does not look good. Johnny Cueto got shelled last night. 4 runs in an inning plus. Don't be surprised if he ends up in the IL. Apparently he's got a forearm injury. He doesn't have his velocity. Marlins are off to a 1-4 start. Thank you very much. Orioles shut out Texas 2-0. It was the first loss of the season for Texas. However, the low light of the game, Josh Smith of the Rangers got hit in the face with a pitch. Had to be taken to the hospital. Not a pretty scene. Royals got their first win. They beat Toronto 9-5. Atlanta doubled up St. Louis 8-4. Acuna with a 3-run homer. He's off to a great start. Tigers got their first win, Mark, 7-6 over the Astros in 11. Ohtani homered again for the Angels. He's off to a big start. 7-3 Angels over Seattle. And the Mariners off to a 1-4 start. Thank you very much. Much is expected of them this year.
There is, but wouldn't it be nice to see the Angels get off to a great start instead of having to fight around and slug around 500 to see if they could do something, to see if Ohtani and Trout can get off to a good start this year?
Yankees 8-1 over the Phillies, who are the only winless team in baseball at 0-4. Yanks with 5 in the 5th. Milwaukee 10-0 over the Mets. They scored 7 in the 5th. By the way, the Mets had not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 pitch clock violations. 2 batters and their starting pitcher Carrasco got 2 violations, including one before the first pitch of the game. And then in the 9th inning, the Mets had a batter called out. He said, I was just staring at the scoreboard, waiting to see a replay of the pitch. They usually showed it. They didn't this time. Okay. I was waiting for the replay. When it didn't come, I finally said, I better get back in the box. When he did, there were 6 seconds left on the clock. He got called out. Giants 12-3 over the White Sox. Reds edged the Cubs 7-6, and the Pirates by the same score over the Red Sox. What else we got? How about the Guardians? They're 4-1, 12-11 over Oakland in 10 innings.
That game took 3:19.
Right.
I mean, it's a 12-11 extra inning game that got over in less than 3.5 hours.
Right. Last year, it would have taken 4:19.
You're darn right it would have, David.
Padres 5-4 over Arizona. They were trailing 4-3 going to the bottom of the 9th. They hit back-to-back homers. 8 and 9 hitters. Boom, boom. See you later. Dodgers with 7 in the 5th. They beat Colorado 13-4. It's the final week of the NBA regular season. Where are the bells, whistles, and horns? Some teams have as many as 5 games to play. Most teams have only 3 or 4. 13 games tonight in the association. The Heat, they're in a tough spot. They're 2 back of Brooklyn with 4 to play, and here's the problem. Brooklyn owns the tiebreaker. So they need a lot. They need to run the table, and they need Brooklyn to have a really bad week. Miami's in Detroit. Brooklyn hosts Minnesota. Magic are hosting Cleveland. Cavs clinch the 4 seed with a win. Boston can clinch the 2 seed with a win in Philly tonight. 3 games in the NHL last night. They all involved Western Conference foes. Vegas beat Minnesota in a shootout 4-3. Vegas is now second in the Pacific. And the 1 point for Minnesota has them tied with Dallas for first in the division. Dallas 5-1 winners over Nashville. So Dallas and Minnesota tied for first in the division, and I think tied for the best overall record in the West. Nashville, by the way, 5 points out of the final playoff spot. Seattle, the Kraken, Mark, big win last night as they're trying to clinch their first ever playoff spot. They're the first wild card right now. 5 points clear of Calgary. 8-1 winners over Arizona with a game in hand. 11 games in the NHL tonight. The Panthers are hosting Buffalo while the Penguins are in New Jersey. Florida a point behind the Penguins with 5 to play for a playoff spot. Here's the funny thing, though, Mark. If Florida gets a win tonight and Pittsburgh doesn't get a regulation win, Florida moves up to the first wild card. They not only leapfrog Pittsburgh, they'd tie the Islanders and they'd have more regulation wins. So Florida's a point out of the playoffs, yet they're a win tonight, potentially away from being the first wild card. And if you're going to make the playoffs, you'd much rather be the first wild card than the second, because the first wild card is going to get Carolina. The second wild card is going to get Boston. NFL news. Drew Rosenhaus is Jalen Carter's agent, the talented Georgia defensive lineman who's also, well, he's had a rough offseason. Rosenhaus said, yeah, we're only visiting teams in the top 10. He's going in the top 10. I'm not wasting his time and your time. So he met with Chicago yesterday after meeting with Philly over the weekend. Bears picked 9th, Eagles picked 10th. Bobby Knight was released from a Bloomington, Indiana hospital yesterday afternoon. He had been hospitalized since late last week. And, Mark, we'll have Ron Sirak coming up in about 45 minutes, but so far, so good in terms of the LIV players at Augusta. There were even hugs. It just, the PGA and LIV playing practice rounds together. Even Freddie Couples said, I love Phil. I love Sergio. They just can't speak badly about the PGA Tour. That bothers me.
That's funny because he called one a nutbag and the other a clown last week.
Phil was the nutbag.
Right. Sergio was the clown.
Right. Says Sergio, one of the top 10 ball strikers of all time. And he goes, Phil, I love Phil. And they are close. All right. But, Fred says, but you can't be dissing the PGA Tour, man. That ain't going to fly with me. You pointed out yesterday, Phil was asked by the folks at Augusta, hey, you want a podium spot? You're a 3-time champion. Only one guy in the field. There's one more. And Phil said, no, I'm good. So I think that's smart. I do.
Believe it was Cam Smith that brought, because Dustin Johnson was wearing a Live Golf logo on his shirt yesterday in the practice round. Cam Smith basically said he brought 2 sets of clothes. He's got some with Live Golf logos on it, and he brought some without in case the people at Augusta asked him not to wear them. You think they don't have the utmost respect for this place?
Well, it's by invitation only. So, and the LIV golfers can't rely on world rankings to get them in anymore. I mean, like Cam Smith, who was 4th in the world at the end of the season last year, is like 55th now. Something ridiculous. So that's why they got to play nice, Mark. They don't get invited. DJ at least. Cam because he won the British and DJ because he won the 2020 Masters, they get in. But most of those LIV guys, they need that little white invitation to come in the mail, man. Chicken or beef? You don't think that's
beef, huh?
You don't think there's a separate card, okay, asking you chicken, beef, or fish, do you?
I don't think that card comes in. Maybe one with shoe size, for a door gift, David.
Gotcha. And just by the way, let us know your suit size, just in case we need it on Sunday.
That's right. Got to have that jacket size. That is for certain.
And that was the starting 5.
Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. David Samson coming up right here on the Florida Sports Network. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Yeah, hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Good morning, David.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. How about yourself?
I am great.
How'd your first week go?
It felt the same to me. I mean,
What's your favorite movie?
it's actually a movie. I've never said it, but it's a movie called Fearless with Jeff Bridges.
Okay.
Directed by Peter Weir. About people who survive a plane crash.
Is it based on a true story?
No. My aunt and uncle died in a plane crash, and that movie always just hit me in a very interesting way. So it's, from the minute I saw it, it's been my number one. And hasn't changed. But yes, there were a lot of bits going on last week.
That thing that came across, I laughed out loud. I laughed. I just sat here and laughed.
It's a good bit. So are people all excited about the Rays right now?
Well, here's what we're trying to figure out. They announced opening day as a sellout, yet there was only 25,025 people in attendance. We thought, and what we're seeing is that capacity is listed at 31,000. So I'm trying to figure out, have they reduced it to 25,000? Which means if you sold out the whole season, you'd barely have 2 million people. Okay. Or did they announce a sellout and it was anything but?
Are they announcing? They're announcing paid. Not necessarily. That's what they should be doing, is announcing paid, not actually turnstile.
I think they're announcing tickets just based on looking at the crowd from the weekend, and I watched most of the series. It didn't look like there was that many people there. And
certainly talk about the different ways that I screwed around with attendance.
I remember all my years of minor league play-by-play. There's one of my favorite guys, a guy by the name of Art Clarkson, who ran a minor league hockey team in Birmingham, Alabama. And he'd walk up to me and give me the attendance at the start of the third. And he'd give me, there'd be two numbers. There'd be the number they reported to the league and the number of bodies. And he'd just always point to the bottom one to me and just look at me and smile. And I'd always got a kick out of Art, because the second one's the only one that ever mattered.
Yeah. We made up attendance every day, and if you look at our attendance each game, the last three numbers mean something. It's somebody's birthday, or we're honoring some movie star or something. Sometimes we would end it with FUF, fuck you, Frank, if we were pissed at Frank Robinson for something.
Wow.
Yeah. The last year of our attendance, we also played with the final attendance of the year that would go down. So the historic season-ending attendance would always be a meaningful number.
Nice.
Here we go, guys.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the top of the 7 o'clock hour on a Tuesday, and that means it is time for David Samson. He of the daily Nothing Personal with David Samson podcast, which is live at 8 a.m. weekdays. He's now part of Meadowlark Media, weekly on the Dan Le Batard Show. Hey, what's the business show that you and John Skipper are doing once a week?
It's going to be called The Sporting Class with John Skipper and David Samson. It's a sports business podcast, and we're playing off like the Westminster Dog Show, Best in Show, one of my favorite movies. So The Sporting Class, I think you're going to see maybe a dog or two in our logo and our artwork, but we're going to cover all cool sports business stories from a person who's been in the room, John Skipper, former president of ESPN, and me, who ran a team. So together we have some interesting arguments about different ways to look at things.
Is Best in Show a better mockumentary than Spinal Tap?
God, I knew you were going to put those two in there. And that is an absolutely unfair question, because they should forever be tied. And in my mind, they are.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Some of the same players, and terrifically done.
Did you like seeing Christopher Guest next to Jamie Lee Curtis at the Oscars when she won? I don't know if you saw that, maybe past your bedtime, but they've been married forever. And Christopher Guest, who obviously from Spinal Tap and all the other great movies like Princess Bride, he's sitting there, and it just made me happy.
I'm curious what dogs you each would choose to represent yourselves. If other people chose the dogs for you, you might not like it. So I'll be curious what the two of you choose to represent yourselves.
That is a great question, and we talked about that. And neither one of us chose a dog that anybody else would have chosen for us.
Are you sure about that?
I am 1,000% sure.
Okay.
And wait to see. It's going to be so funny. We're going to revisit this when the logo gets unveiled. We're going to be on here, of course, as we are every Tuesday until you can me. And we're going to see whether or not you agree.
Also, you can follow David on Twitter, David P. Samson, David the letter P. Samson.
We brought this up earlier in the show and talked about it. I saw you tweet about it. The First Lady wants now to invite both Iowa and LSU to the White House. Champions go to the White House, David, right?
That's it. I mean, you can go get a tour if you go online and get a ticket. I'm totally fine with Iowa doing that. But if you're telling me that they're going to do a group photo with Iowa and LSU, that is beyond offensive. Can you imagine when we went at the White House and were with President Bush, if all of a sudden Jeter walked in? I would have lost my mind.
I would take back if I were LSU and they invited both. And I'm being serious when I say this, I wouldn't go. And I know it's a great honor. I'd be like, no. You're honoring us, or no thanks. And Kim Mulkey's got the pizzazz to pull that off.
I would ask for, if they insist on doing it for whatever reasons they deem necessary, and they'd have to be political, because it can't be to grow the game of women's basketball. It can't be to honor the losers, the great teams who have played. There are a ton of great teams who have lost in a finals or in a championship game. Are you going to go back and invite all the losers to the White House? Because why would it just start now? Because Dr. Jill Biden, and I'm not giving you my political slants at all, but because Dr. Jill Biden was at the game talking to Billie Jean King and a bunch of players, falling in love with Iowa, boom, they get to go. And it's just, it upset me because it hit me. Because one of the things when we were in the World Series that we talked about with the guys before the series started was, if we win this series, not only do you guys get rings, but you get to go to the White House. Like, that's a thing. And you're getting me started right now, which is good because I'm about to do nothing personal. And believe me, this will come up.
The president at the time that you won, huge baseball guy, obviously former owner of the Texas Rangers. Curious if you could talk a little bit about, like, how much time did you guys have? An hour, hour and a half, 2 hours? How long did you have? Could you tell us a little bit about the experience?
So he got in trouble. President Bush got in trouble our year when we went because he was spending too much time talking to me and Jeffrey and Pudge and Josh Beckett. And all he wanted to do was talk about baseball. And he watched all the games. So he would talk about when he was on Air Force One for Game 6, I believe. And he was supposed to be getting sleep or whatever he was supposed to be getting. But no, he was watching baseball. And I had been able to meet him several times. Not a look at me, Louie, but I just had, because he owned the Texas Rangers. And he was just a big baseball person.
Obviously. I mean, the word was, if he was not successful running for governor of Texas, okay, that there's a story out there that he, instead of Bud Selig, could have been commissioner in the early 90s.
Wow. There was a lot of talk about that. And there was talk about even what would happen after he was president, whether he'd want to maybe come back and be commissioner, whether he'd want to be an owner of a team again. He loved it. There's no question about it. So my biggest memory of that day is people ushering him along because he was spending that much time dealing with us. And we're just baseball people, and there was real stuff going on, but he enjoyed it. And I remember everything about it. Governor Bush was there. Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida at the time. He came. The mayor was there. Tons of press. It was really an honor. And that's what you get for winning. You don't get that just for getting there.
No.
Did you get a meal, by the way? Did you get lunch? Do you get anything? Did you get a souvenir? I mean, do they give you anything?
I will neither confirm nor deny that certain things may have been lifted from the White House.
Okay, but the question was, were you given anything? Not did you take anything? Were you given anything?
Can you guys hold on 1 second? I have a lawyer with me every time I do this segment. Give me 1 quick second. What do I? Okay. I refuse to answer that question. Anything else you'd like to talk about? We have another 6 or so minutes. Thank you so much.
Moving along to the pitch clock, apparently. Hey, look at the early reports are in, and I know what I've been told, you kind of got to get a 3-week sample to get a real sample size of what this is going to be like. But the early returns are in. I mean, I look at last night, we had a 12-11 game that went 10 innings. That was 3 hours and 19 minutes. To me, that's the ultimate positive. You can have these high-scoring games and still get them done in a reasonable amount of time. This is working so far.
Also, don't forget games are starting at 6:40. So games are starting a lot of places around the league earlier, and they're shorter. But I was reminding people that my opening day 10 years ago was 2 hours and 10 minutes. The opening game, I was a part of another opening day game that was 2 hours, 33 minutes. I don't know who said 3 weeks to you. My view is it's got to be a full season where you look at all parts of the season, the dog days of August, and just to see how players are reacting when they're more tired. But I love the rule changes, don't get me wrong. However, I am not convinced that we are going to see players change their approach at the plate until the way they get paid changes. And we're still seeing home runs. We are still seeing batters who understand you don't want to run into outs. The bigger bases and the lack of ability to disengage the rubber more than twice has led to increased stolen bases. But that's because analytically, we can say to the players, you're going to get there, because we still don't want to do sacrifice bunts or sacrifice flies. We're waiting for the home run.
Listen, they played the Tigers and the Nats, so I'm not getting too excited, but I don't think the Rays starting pitching has given up a run yet. I picked them to win the East. I got to admit, David, I'm feeling pretty good about life.
Well, I want you to enjoy that feeling, because it's so awesome when people after 5 games or 4 games extrapolate over the course of 162.
Yep.
That's what you do, and I'm in. I'm here for it. Here's where you're right. Their rotation is full of people that inside baseball, people know who they are. Outside baseball, people do not know who they are. These are good pitchers, very good, and they don't even have Glasnow back. Now, the division, you're not going to see the Blue Jays finish in last place. It's simply not going to happen. And they are going to be in a fight, the Rays are, with the Blue Jays and the Yankees the entire season. But, God, you got to love their team. But it's also, by the way, the Nationals and the Tigers, who are both going to lose a hundo.
Yes. That's why I brought it up.
And then on the other side, the Marlins off to a rough start. This is going to be a season of this. We had our Marlins guy who says, well, I know what a good baseball team looks like. This is not a good baseball team, and they're struggling to score runs already. And I know it's just 4 games, but when you didn't score runs a year ago, and I think they're off to a start with averaging about 2 a game, it's not what you want to see.
Yeah, they're going to have a problem there. They really are. They've spent money, so I want to give Bruce Sherman, the owner, credit. He's spending money that he doesn't have. The team is losing money, and it's just the offense is not nearly good enough. At the top of the lineup, it's great to have Arise, but guess what? You need people to drive him in, and that was the problem with having 5 second basemen. But the biggest problem you need to look at on that team is Jazz Chisholm, and the fact that he thinks he deserves to be on the cover of MLB's The Show, and he thinks he's what he's not. He's not done anything yet in his career. And what veterans can't stand and executives can't stand is when players think they're entitled to a level of fame and a level of genuflecting when they haven't done anything on the field to deserve it. That's the issue to watch in that clubhouse.
Marlins 1-4. They've scored 3, 2, 2, 1, and 1 runs in their 5 games. 9 runs total in 5 games. You called it. Anthony Rendon would be suspended for grabbing a fan. A, do you ever remember an incident like this before? And B, is 4 games, enough? Too little? What?
Well, the union and the commissioner's office loves to negotiate now. So instead of going through a whole appeals process where you have to pay an independent arbitrator, where you actually have to go present facts and then have the arbitrator decide, what they do is MLB gives a suspension, which they did 5 games. Then they sit down with the player and the union and try to negotiate a reduced amount that the player will agree to, the union will agree to, and that's what happened here. They settled on 4, and that is a large amount. Remember, pitchers, a 5-game suspension is the equivalent of a 1-game suspension for a position player, because starting pitchers only pitch once every 5 days. What Rendon did is a problem. You do not ever touch the fans. It's automatic suspension. It was the easiest way to see. There were people in the media saying, oh, he was heckled, he was taunted. No, it's a simple rule. When you touch a fan, you are suspended. Hard stop. That's how I knew it was going to happen.
And you're okay with the suspension? I mean, I think that's a pretty short suspension for grabbing a fan in the stands. That's the livelihood of the sport, and to make contact with a fan in that way, I thought it could have been a lot more games.
I think that if anything he did differently, it would have been more, but you have to look at what he did. He did not in any way start to go up toward the fan, because if you do that, then you're thinking about the Pistons. So he engaged in a way where his feet were on the ground. He did a grab and then stopped and then left. So for me, what he did was the best of the worst of fan touching. So I think that's why 5 games is always the minimum you're going to get for something like that. And I think players get the picture. You just don't do it. But it's hard. Those guys are being heckled, and they hear it. Believe me. They go to the clubhouse. They hear everything fans say.
Well, especially in Oakland, where there's 62 fans, so you hear all of them. By the way, Rendon makes $35 million a year. That's a $900,000 suspension for what it is worth. He's David Samson. Nothing Personal is his daily podcast, 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. He does it live. You know all the places to check it out. Follow him on Twitter at David P. Samson, David, the letter P. Samson. David, thanks so much for your time. We wish we had more. Have a great rest of your week. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Did you see that this Davis Stone Jr., highly touted recruit? He's got it between, he's at IMG. He's between Oklahoma, Sparty, A&M, LSU, and Miami. On April 1st, he put out a tweet that said he was going to Oklahoma, and it was an April Fool's joke. And the Oklahoma fan base is not very happy with him. That's funny.
Guy did a split screen. Women's national title game was Beyonce at the top of a stage on the left, and on the right was a picture of someone asleep on their couch. Women's title game versus men's title game.
Now, I know that it's a stretch, but if the Sabres win this game, they've got 2 games in hand with the Panthers. 3 games in hand on the Islanders. If they were to win them all, they'd be tied with the Islanders. So Buffalo still...
Yeah, Buffalo wins. They're 2 points back of the Panthers with 2 games in hand. Yeah. And they could be 3 points behind the Penguins with 2 games in hand for the final playoff spot if the Penguins lose.
And the Isles are off tonight.
Mm-hmm. So basically Pittsburgh and Florida with their games in hand on the Islanders tonight.
Islanders host the Lightning Thursday. Second of back-to-backs for the Lightning, too. They go Rangers-Islanders back-to-back.
10 seconds.
Yeah, they ain't going to have much for the Islanders.
Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Ron Sirak, one of our golf buddies, to join us coming up in a little more than 15 minutes' time. We'll talk a little Masters. You know, something we don't talk often, Mark, about the Masters is the weather. But it looks like the weather is going to be a factor.
The weather's going to be awful.
Back to you, Jim, in the studio.
Awful. It's supposed to rain every day of the Masters. Thunderstorms on Thursday, rain Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Cold on Saturday with a high of 53 degrees.
Think we have a Monday finish? We don't get many of those.
I think we might. I think we might because of the possibility of thunderstorms.
Now, one of the good things is this is a smaller field. I mean, there's usually not even 100 players in this field. Usually, I think there's like in the 90s because it's by invitation and qualification only. So, you know, it won't take as long to play the first 2 rounds as it does. You know, you don't have nearly as many groups as you do in the other tournaments. So maybe that'll help them. But yeah, I mean, you know, how many bad weather Masters can you recall?
Bad weather days. You know, there's always been a Thursday, a Friday, even the occasional Saturday where there's been some rain out there, but usually there's always a couple of beautiful days so that we get to see the azaleas. And this week looks cold and nasty.
There was a bad weather day, a storm that came through in the middle of the 3rd round in 2000. And I remember because Jack was 60 and he was actually just kind of sort of hanging around. He was like even 1 over. Course was playing hard. And, you know, but I mean, he's out there bunting the ball around. You know, he's not hitting it very far compared to everybody else. And then all of a sudden the storm came through. And they kept him on the course for a little while during the wind. And those that got caught on the course, yeah, It was VJ's Masters. VJ able to hit the ball through that stuff. Some of them out there, no, this is a problem. It was like Tiger. He had won the first 2 legs of the Grand Slam. I think it was 05. He's out there at the British. He's in contention. He gets caught in the storm in the 3rd round. Shot like 82. That's a problem. That really hurts your chances of winning right there.
I will say this weather doesn't do much for Tiger making the cut. Because it's the last thing he needs is rain and cold.
Yes.
For a bad leg and a bad back.
Correct. I think right now, knowing the forecast, don't you have to bet against him making the cut?
Pretty much. I mean, he might somehow will himself to the weekend, but for those that wanted Tiger to be a factor, one, that was an impossibility to begin with. Secondly, with the weather, it's now for sure, at best, make the cut and play the weekend.
So Ron Sirak to talk a little Masters coming up in a little less than 15 minutes time. Felipe with the play of the day coming up in just a few moments. Tip of the hat to UConn. Huskies do what only 4 other teams had previously done, win all 6 of their tournament games by double figures. A 17-point win in the title game. They averaged 20 points per victory, which is the second most all time. Second most dominant NCAA tournament performance, the 2023 UConn Huskies. How remarkable in a tournament with more parity than maybe ever before. It was parity among 67 teams, Mark, and then there was UConn.
5-0 now in title games, which in and of itself is a remarkable feat. 3 different coaches, 5 different decades that they've won titles in, or 4 different decades they've won titles in, with 3 different coaches.
5 years was the rebuild. This is the old Mark. Remember when he used to hire a coach, they got 5 years? John McKay's line as coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I had a 5-year plan. Why'd you have a 5-year plan? I had a 5-year contract. This is in year 4 of that plan, by the way. They went to the NFC Championship game. But Danny Hurley, when he was hired 5 years ago, remember they forced Kevin Ollie out, accused him of doing all sorts of unethical stuff, basically because they didn't want to have to pay him. They ended up pretty much having to pay him. And now 5 years later, Danny Hurley with a national championship. Kentucky, by the way, did you see that? Kentucky atop the Vegas boards right now at 11-1 as the preseason favorite to win the title next year. Kentucky.
Don't waste your money.
11-1. So no single-digit team either. I think Duke and Purdue were 12-1.
Time now for our Clutch Vodka play of the day. Felipe, what do you got for us today?
Like you said, UConn with a commanding 76-59 win. The Westwood Call audio from Kevin Kugler includes Andrew Hurley, Dan Hurley's son, dribbling out the clock in the final moments of the championship game. Here's the audio.
Aztecs will get a 3 up and off. Rebound to Hurley for UConn. And how fitting. The coach's son is going to dribble out his dad's championship. 76-59. Every dog has his day, and this day belongs to the Huskies. UConn has its 5th national championship in school history. 76-59. UConn, men's basketball national champions.
I didn't like how right after, David, I know you were sleeping, but right after they dribbled the ball on the ground, the clock hit 0. They went to Dan Hurley shaking hands, and then the players sad. They waited like 10, 15 seconds to show the players celebrate. I didn't like that, but I digress. There's your play of the day.
Your Clutch Vodka play of the day. That's clutch with a K. Check them out at clutchspirits.com and ask for Clutch Vodka wherever you buy your vodka.
Kentucky 11-1, Duke and Purdue 12-1, UConn 14-1, Kansas and Marquette 16-1. Many people believe Marquette's going to be the preseason number one team in the country, for whatever that's worth, because this year North Carolina was the preseason number one team, and they didn't even make the tournament. So
I'll wait till the NIL money starts flowing around and see who's going to buy a few players off of these teams so we can find out who's going to be good.
Well, first off, your Spartans are 25-1. They made a Sweet 16 run this year, and they got a really good recruiting class coming in.
Yes, they do.
But also, look at what Miami and LSU, the LSU women and the Miami men have done here with NIL very effectively. I mean, Mulkey bought a team. Larinaga put a team together with the help of John Ruiz. Miami's 28-1. I mean, if you just go the teams that were in the Final Four, UConn's 14-1, Miami's 28-1. FAU, believe it or not, is I can't find it here. I thought it was not even 50-1. San Diego State 66-1.
Yeah, I wouldn't waste my money on San Diego State or FAU, but Miami and UConn, although UConn's going to lose players to the association. Hey, you've got to sit there and sort this out with what teams do with NIL now. That there's no way you can start predicting towards next year without seeing how the transfer portal plays itself out in college basketball. Miller and Moulton. Ron Sirak to talk Masters coming up. Pat Kirwan in a little more than a half an hour on the Florida Sports Network. Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Probably mention this more in a future segment, but I wonder what they'll rank Miami. the preseason rankings next year.
By the way, that video you sent me yesterday is disturbing as hell. What the hell was in that dryer?
I know.
Windows don't get blown out of the place.
I mean, I'm trying to picture, like, what would you put in your microwave that would get that kind of reaction? I mean, damn. What in the world did you have in your pockets?
I like where someone said I need C4.
Did you get my text?
Yes.
Yes, the Oral Roberts guy is entering the portal. 20 plus a game. Yeah. By the way, did you hear? So Trump was offered to be arraigned on Zoom and turned it down, which I didn't realize you could be arraigned on Zoom. Honestly, I thought everybody had to show up in person, especially nowadays. I mean, I guess in the spring of 2020 and summer of 2020, okay, but
Speaking of criminals, I was at Costco yesterday, and there's a good-looking younger couple, pretty good-looking woman, whatever, decent-looking guy dressed in some outrageous clothes, and I'm like, they're just loving on one another. I'm like, what a happy couple. And I look, and he's got the ankle monitor just. I'm like, and she stuck with him after that. He's going through Costco with the ankle monitor on. Good for you.
That's great. Ron Sirak is on hold. Ten seconds. Here we go.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. Pat Kirwan to talk all things NFL at the top of the hour. He's a contributor to the Golf Channel. You can read his work at Ron Sirak, SIRAK.com. He is Ron Sirak. Follow him on Twitter at Ron Sirak, SIRAK. Ron, it's David and Mark once again. Hope you are well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Always fun when we get to Masters Week. That really means the season's getting going now.
There is no doubt, but this one looks to be a wet Masters, Ron. This is going to be a cold, wet, rainy week. Does that favor anyone in your estimation?
Well, I think it's going to favor somebody who hits the ball, keeps the ball in the fairway, and hits it long. I mean, you look at guys like Jon Rahm and Rory McIlroy, and if they have their A game with the driver, that's going to be a big plus for them. Look, the weather's going to be a factor, but there is no golf course on the planet that can manage weather better than Augusta National. They have the sub-air drying system underneath the greens. They have it in a lot of low spots on the fairways. They have endless resources to get that golf course ready, and they have the smallest field in major championship golf. This year it's 88 players, so that gives them a time wiggle room too if there is delays to keep rounds on pace. So they are better positioned to deal with the elements than any other major championship.
You mentioned Rory, and obviously he's chasing the career Grand Slam. He's also chasing a major, which he hasn't won of any kind in 9 years. Ron, has he ever been playing better heading into a major season than he seemingly is right now?
First off, that stat that you just mentioned right there, not having won a major in 9 years, is astounding because, he had 4 major championships by the time he was 23, 24 years old. And the fact that he's gone 9 years is unbelievable. But I do think that you're also right about how he's playing. I think the whole live golf thing re-energized him. It's got him going. He's playing on a mission. He put himself in a position to win every major last year, but didn't quite get it done on the weekend. I expect him to end that major drought sometime this year. It would sort of be cool if he did it at Augusta to complete the career Grand Slam. Only 5 players have done that, and you're talking about iconic people when you talk about them. And but it will be fascinating to see how he deals with. He's become the face of the anti-live people out there. So he's going to have that sort of diversion going on this week. He's going to be bombarded with questions about that.
Is it too much that he's become the face of the anti-live movement, that Rory really needs to focus on Rory winning golf tournaments and not the rest of it? But it's too late now. But is it too much?
I don't think it's too much because of, first off, Rory's head screwed on right. And I do think it was something that has re-energized him. So that by being that face of the anti-live people, I think has given him new energy, and I'm expecting to see a second act in the Rory McIlroy story that's as compelling as he was those first 4 or 5 years that he was on tour. I was in Quail Hollow, Charlotte in 2010 when he won his first PGA Tour win. He was 20 years old and he shot 62 on Sunday to blow away the field. And then at Congressional, when he won his first U.S. Open, he won by 8 strokes there. When he has his A game, when all cylinders are hitting, he's the best player in the world. What he's needed to learn, and he seems to be doing this better now, is how to get a decent score when he's struggling. He doesn't win with his B game hardly at all. And Tiger Woods used to win with his B game or his C game all the time.
Ron Sirak contributes to the Golf Channel. You can read his work at Ron Sirak, SIRAK.com, RonSirak.com. Follow him on Twitter at Ron Sirak. Ron, I'm always fascinated when they make a change to the course. And we may see as radical a change on 13 since when they added the second cut, if you will. 30-plus yards, tremendously elevated tee now. It's going to be really gutsy if you're going to try to draw it around the corner, is what they say. I mean, Ron, are we going to go back to mid 80s when the Watsons and Seveys and Curtis Stranges of the world, the clubs that they were hitting into 13, is that what this hole is going to play like now?
Well, I think it's going to be what it's going to become is a very interesting risk reward hole in the sense that you can get to where you're going to be hitting a mid iron into that green for your second shot if you gamble off the tee. But you got to move the ball right to left, and you got to move it right to left without moving it too far left. So it will be interesting to see the different strategies that are there, particularly for the big hitters, for the John Rahms and the Rory McIlroys, as they stand up there, and whether they're going to attack that hole, whether they're going to play it as a sensible 3-shot hole. To me, one of the most boring holes in golf is when they make a par 5 so that everybody hits a layup for their second shot, because then, it becomes a wedge game and a putting game. But I think that the way that they've done this hole, they've made the angle of attack off the tee not only longer but sharper. It's a more abrupt dogleg down there. So it will be interesting to see how players develop their game plan for that hole.
If we get a first-time major winner, give us a couple of guys you think it might be.
Well, two guys who are playing really, really well is Max Homa and Cameron Young. And Cameron Young's got he crushes the ball, kills the ball, and long hitters traditionally have done pretty well at Augusta National. It's a golf course where a high, long shot serves you very, very well. But and Max Homa seems to be somebody who's in the mix all the time. He's put himself in there for about 2 years now, and those would be my two non-major winners that I'm looking at as real strong contenders this week.
You've mentioned Rahm a couple times. He sniffed winning here once so far, yet his stats this year are gaudy. He's got the most wins, most rounds led. Heck, in the last 5 Masters, he's right up there, most rounds in the 60s at Augusta. He's got the longest consecutive cut streak in majors. Yet this course, what is it that you think his game and this course have yet to fully match up about?
He can be a little bit erratic sometimes with the putter. He's one of those putters who sort of like he's more dangerous from sort of like Jordan Spieth this way. He's more dangerous from 30 feet than he is from 8 feet. And at Augusta, that it's a very, very difficult, challenging course on those greens to make an up and down if you're missing greens. So it's the person who makes a lot of 5-6 footers during the week is going to be really hard to beat, and that's the distance that he struggles with this putter. If he's on with that club, he's really hard to beat on that golf course because he can play all the par 5s. All the par 5s are 2-shot holes for him.
Cam Smith's played this course very well. Now he's a live golfer. What do you expect out of him this week?
That's going to be fascinating to see. There's 18 live golfers in the field. 18 out of 88, so that's a significant group there. Of those 18, there's some past champions in there: Patrick Reed, Dustin Johnson. But I think Cam Smith's the only one who legitimately has to be considered a contender in there. The reports that I've been hearing out of there is that he's been surprised that how well he's been received on the range and stuff. I sort of expected that. There's not going to be name calling and things like that, but I think that he's been. People like him, and I think that they understand what he did. That he took the money, but he's going to be playing with an enormous amount of pressure on him. And Greg Norman added to that pressure when he said over the weekend that if a live golfer wins it on Sunday, the other 17 live players will all be around the 18th green to greet that person when they finish up. And I think that only sort of adds to the pressure on Cam Smith.
Ron, is it possible that some of the animosity has gone away for the time being. I mean, this thing's going to get to court next year, and then once there's a verdict, I have a feeling the animosity on one side is going to be pretty strong. But if you think about it, LIV moved on, but so did the PGA Tour. They've reconfigured, and most everyone who's in the Masters is an upper echelon player, and they're going to make more money playing PGA Tour golf than they've ever made before, in part because of the LIV Tour. I mean, even Rory said LIV was really good for the PGA Tour at the end of the day. And don't you think that a bunch of rich guys are now shaking hands with another bunch of rich guys, and they're kind of like, hey, thanks for leaving?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think the only person who continues to drive the animosity between the two is probably Greg Norman, and I think this is a personal thing for him. I mean, he tried to do this in 1994, have a split away limited field tour and with guaranteed money, and it didn't work at that time. And he's carried a resentment towards the PGA Tour, towards the commissioner at that time, Tim Fincham, this whole time. And he's probably the only one who is fueling that animosity. If you look at it, there's no question that LIV pushed the PGA Tour into doing some changes that really needed to be done. And it's meant a lot more money for everybody out there. No question about that.
Ron, who you got winning this week?
Cameron Young. I mean, I love the guy's game. And how amazing is this? We've done this whole interview. We've talked all the names we've talked about. We did not mention Scotty Scheffler. Is he the most underappreciated, undervalued, great player that we've had in a long, long time?
I think there's two factors there. One, guys very rarely repeat at Augusta, and so we don't normally think of them. But also, I mean, he's pretty understated. And he enters the tournament second year in a row, Ron, world number one.
He's one of those players who very rarely beats himself, and that might be the strength of his game right there. He's got the demeanor that's very good in major championship golf, where a bad hole, bad shot doesn't get to him, and he's got a calmness about him that supplements his shot making ability really, really, really well. And I think he's going to be one of those guys. This could be a guy who could win 30 tournaments and 5 majors and probably still will be underappreciated.
Does Tiger play the weekend?
Yeah, I think he'll get to the weekend, but I would expect that we would see what we saw, the last time. That's a tough walk. He played really, really well at Riviera in LA. That's a way, way easier walk there. And it's just going to be hard to maintain that energy, physical and emotional energy for 4 straight days. Golf is like every other sport. You can only get your game legs in game situation. You can't get it on the practice tee. And I would expect him to get to the weekend, but to run out of gas.
Since Tiger won the Masters, he's played in 9 majors. He's seen the weekend 4 of the 9 times, or has finished, I should say, because he made it to the weekend in the one PGA where he withdrew. He's only finished 4 of his last 9 majors. He's Ron Sirak. You'll see him on the Golf Channel. You can read his fine work at Ron Sirak, SIRAK.com. RonSirak.com. Follow him on Twitter at Ron Sirak. Ron, enjoy one of your favorite weeks and weekends of the year. Stay dry. Be well.
Always a pleasure. Talk to you down the road, my friend.
Ron Sirak, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. Only 3 guys have ever repeated. Jack did it in the mid-60s. Faldo did it 89-90, both in a playoff, and Tiger. So only 3 guys have repeated. Scheffler trying to become the 4th. I'm going to throw 2 guys out there. Zalatoris has played well here. He's only played a handful of times, but he's played really well. Justin Rose has a top 5 scoring average on this course of guys in the field, and he's already won earlier this year.
Boy, oh boy, I'd love to see Rory do it. I don't think it's going to happen. Give me Justin Thomas.
Ooh. And you're not a big fan either.
Pat Kirwan next. Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. But, like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Yeah. Hi.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6, and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill, the Bayfront Inn. Something for everyone. On 5th Avenue in Naples.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How was hockey?
It was hold on. I have a bad cough today. Hockey was unbelievable. Let me just get some water in here. So they went to Boston. Teams from all over the country. Brady's team went 7-0, won the whole thing. And you're going to love this part. They scored 60 goals, 6-0, and gave up 4.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty impressive. And the young guy was there too, Collins' team, and they lost early and then played their way back into the playoffs and won the whole thing themselves. So both guys went home as well. 60-4, though. I don't ever recall that.
Now, what age is he?
Brady's just turned 14, so he's the 09s. You know how they do it, right? So, yeah, this voice of mine, too many airplane trips. The more I talk, the better it gets, but it's just hard to keep talking when I'm getting ready to come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good. They're all coming down here tomorrow.
Easter week. That's right. You're getting invaded.
Yeah, 2 families. My wife and I are moving downstairs to one of the suites. Yeah. Escape the house. Let them have the whole place. That way we can sneak out at night and don't even know we're gone.
I was going to say, you bringing your equipment downstairs with you?
Oh, yeah. You think you can do a show up here with 6 kids running around?
No.
And two of them are obsessed with wearing the headset and asking, please, can I be on? I go, I'm on the air, guys. You can't be doing that. So.
Would still sound better than 10 to noon.
Yeah, it was, it was cold and rainy up there. So I went to 14 hockey games in 3 days. In the cold, out in the rain. It wasn't only a matter of time before I got sick. And I never get sick.
Did you treat yourself to a Coyotes game when you were in Phoenix?
I did not. I should have done something. It was pretty boring owners meetings.
They play on campus at Arizona State. And so they play in like a 4,000 seat arena, 4,500. Nice. It's more intimate than where the Blades play. And I caught a Flyers Coyotes game there, the one game we did in Arizona this year. I made sure the night before the game I went to Sunday night. I went to a Flyers Coyotes game.
That's amazing that the NHL approved of a stadium that small.
Well, that's Gary Bettman's baby. He desperately wants it to work in Phoenix. He's the only one. They're going to play 3 years, Pat, worth of games in a 4,500 seat arena. 3 years.
That's like the Chargers when they went up the road to the soccer stadium.
Yep.
That has destroyed their fan base.
Yep.
30 seconds.
You can't grow your fan base that way, and then all of a sudden you get to a big arena and it's a ghost town. Were they the team that was in Quebec?
No. That team went to Denver and won the cup their very first year in Denver in '96.
When I was in Quebec, they were talking about Arizona going back to Quebec.
Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the 8 o'clock hour on a Tuesday, and that means Pat Kirwan, he of NFL Radio's Moving the Chains, 3 to 7 weekdays. He's also part of CBS's NFL Today show, which means he will be at the Super Bowl for them as well, because this is a CBS Super Bowl year. Pat joins us courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and over a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. All your traveling sounds as if it's caught up to you. Your voice okay?
No. The listeners will hear it very shortly here. It's getting better, but it's not great. But as long as you don't throw me off the air, I'm happy to be here.
Well, Pat, yesterday, some rumors out there that Tennessee may want to move up in the draft. Just your thoughts on how much more movement we're going to have at the top of this draft.
They're chasing quarterbacks, as we all know. But to me, that little floater that went out there about 3 to 11 tells me they're trying to tell the Raiders, you're at 7. We'd much be more interested in you coming up if you want to come up. So if you're getting action from the 11, and why wouldn't you? Because they're the ones who've got to go the highest. To me, they're just trying to bait the Raiders into coming up.
All right. When you were working in the front offices, this is Liars Month. This is Liars Poker Month.
Yes.
So when the stuff's being thrown against the wall, how much of it did you guys talk about? Did you look at who it's coming from and try to analyze, well, that reporter's really, like Schefter for the longest time worked out in Denver, was very tight with the Broncos. If he said something about the Broncos, you took it as gospel. I'm just curious, when you were in the front offices, how much of this month, how much of the stuff did you believe and how much of it did you completely ignore?
Well, since we were part of the lying, I understood what was going on.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to here.
Yeah, well, we had to convince the team we were taking a player we knew they wanted. And once they heard that, they called us and said, can we swap spots? So it happens, but it's all part of the poker game. The problem is that sometimes it's true. So really what really goes on is you land up doing deals with your best friends. the guys you trust in the league. The newbies and the guys that you never knew before and never did a deal, you really have to be careful about doing. Now, if they offer you something that's got merit to it and it's a bargain in your mind, then you do it. But most of the time, you land up with your friends, and you have your friends double check some of that stuff. But it's fun. It's part of the whole game. It's all about the quarterbacks, So yesterday I said, let me take a look at everybody again and then write a name next to each guy. I'm not done with it, but I'll be interested to see what you guys think. When I got done doing Levis, you know what I wrote next to him? Sam Darnold.
That's not a very good comparison. I think people that are drafting Will Levis are expecting more than Sam Darnold, Pat.
Yeah, no, guys who drafted Sam Darnold are expecting more too. So it just becomes, and I say this all the time, and I know I've said it on this show in years past, are they really first-round quarterbacks, or are these just teams that need a quarterback? And that's what pushed them up here. When you watch them play, I mean, Anthony Richardson has no right to a top first-round situation. The guy has a losing record. So what are you drafting? You're drafting potential, which is fine. But, the San Francisco 49ers moved way up themselves to get Trey Lance. How'd that look?
Well, can we talk about the Niners for a second? I was surprised at the owners' meetings when John Lynch came out and said, well, I mean, our number one quarterback right now is Brock Purdy. He's earned it. You gave up 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance, and this guy's not going to be healthy at the start of camp. He may not even be healthy at the start of the season. I was surprised by that. Were you?
No, in the sense of John was a player. John knows who won the locker room, and John knows who won on the field, and he knows how the players feel about it. The guy who came off the bench, the first thing he ever said in the huddle was, shut up, I got to call this play, and everyone loved him, being Purdy. I think he knows, and I think maybe he knows things about Lance we don't know about, putting a fire under his belly. So to me, it was strategic and purposeful, but I'm glad he did it. He's a former player. If the guy making that call wasn't John Lynch, but he was a front office executive who never played, he wouldn't have made that call. He would have been worrying about the 3 first-round picks they gave up. John is not worried about that right now because he's a former player.
What do you think they do long-term with Lance? Do you think he's long for the Niners, or is this someone that you could see being moved?
I could see him being moved. Now, you're never going to recoup what you paid for him. But this goes right back to Tennessee, moving from 11 to 3. What do you think they're going to give up to do that? And who are they going to get, Levis or Richardson? And you got to wonder, you box yourself into the same thing where you hope Ryan Tannehill stays for a couple of years, and then you realize, I hope he never leaves. So they're going to end up doing something extraordinary if that thing gets pulled off. But I can see Lance being traded.
You thinking like a Minnesota type situation in which, and not necessarily even their first round pick, would they give up their second round pick? But obviously, because if Minnesota doesn't do something bold here, they got to continue to go down the Kirk Cousins short-term, fully guaranteed money train, which, listen, he's probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFC. It's not a bad train ride to be on. But when I look at the teams maybe in the bottom third of the first round, the one that would jump out to me to make a deal for a quarterback, if it wasn't the Saints at 29, it'd be Minnesota at 23.
I don't disagree with you. I think they'd be a player in it. I also think the Raiders might be a player in it if they don't move out of 7. They could land up with not an option, and then all of a sudden they might want to do something. Maybe. And then I think there's other teams like Baltimore. If they're going to land up playing Lamar on a franchise tag, they know what's coming. One more franchise tag and he's gone. They might be interested in doing something. And maybe not right away, but maybe as the season goes on. They don't have to move Trey Lance now. They just got to move him sooner or later. Why did they sign Sam Darnold?
Exactly. That's a hell of a third-string quarterback, and he didn't sign there if he thought he could be Mr. Hat, clipboard, deactive half the time guy.
It almost feels like they don't even want Trey Lance to be the 2. They'd like him to be the 3. There's a big difference between the 2 and the 3. The 2 has got to be ready to go in the middle of a game. So it would be interesting to follow. But I do, to Mark's question, do I think he's tradable? Yeah, I do.
All right, Jalen Carter not talking to teams outside the top 10. Good move, bad move, or a move that isn't even worth talking about?
That's Drew Rosenhaus in his finest fashion. You know, Drew's trying to make sure he stays up there, but you don't bring that kind of stuff up if you think everything is good. And he's trying to scare people into thinking. Now, Drew knows better. Drew's a smart guy, and I like him a lot. He's just trying to paint the picture for everyone to accept. The truth of the matter is, he could slide out of there. It's not, there's a lot of things involved with him. And I'm telling you, he could slide out of the top 10.
He's Pat Kirwan, NFL Radio's Moving the Chains, weekdays 3 to 7. He's also part of CBS's NFL Today Show. Pat joining us courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West, over a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Do you agree with Rosenhaus, by the way? Okay. That he's looking at the scenario, he's definitely going to be top 10, or do you think, he does fall?
I think he has a chance to fall because it's not just the car incident. It's not just the out of shape for his workout. There's other things in the equation there. I'm not at liberty to say it, but clubs know. Once those 2 things happened, people went back in to Georgia to go, let's go deeper. And we all do this. Now there's a red flag up and we don't know enough. And our owner's going to want to know why we took this guy. And they're going to try to find everything in case when you draft them, it all comes out in the media an hour later and your owner never knew about it. So they're drilling down at levels that would surprise many of us. And they're finding out other things.
So, Pat, as this goes on, and just, we'll take this player out. You've done this a million times. You're going to your owner. You're telling him everything. Do you have to get approval from your owner at that standpoint? Do you just say this is a transitional player that could help our team now? How do you sell your owner when you have these types of situations?
Well, you tell him, first off, there's a lot of different styles of ownership. There are owners that don't care, do whatever you do, and that's what I pay you for. And if you fail, I'll fire you. There are other guys that with the first round pick, they want to be involved. But I'll just go back to my own owner and what he said to me one time. He said, you can take that guy, but if the day after the draft, there's a big story out there of things you never told me, you're gone. And so that's why I know they're drilling down on Jalen.
So the odds then of the Lions, who pick at 6 and 18, the odds of the Lions passing him at 6, but he's still available at 18. What do you think?
Oh, that would be a dream come true. But here's what I say. Now, I know the head coach in Detroit very well. He is a blue-collar hard worker. He likes passion, and he doesn't really like guys who rest on their talent alone. I'd be really amazed if the coach there, Coach Campbell, fell in love with Jalen. I would be. Now, could he be there at 18? Yeah. But I always ask this question. I'll ask you too. If you won't take him at 6 because of the issues, why at 18 did he become acceptable?
I mean, isn't it just value at that point that you've got someone ranked so high that they fell to you at 18? You take the best player on the board.
Well, there are people that are taking him off the board. So he won't even be on every draft board. And that's the way life is with a lot of places. And we're not looking for Boy Scouts here. That's for sure. And he might pass a couple of tests, but I know what guys are doing down in Georgia and who they're talking to. And they're finding out stuff that's not good.
Pat, rest up. You got a 4-hour show this afternoon. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm better off if I keep talking.
Okay.
What do you got, Doc?
Hot tea and lemon. That's our advice.
Thank you, Doctor.
Pat Kirwan. All right. NFL Radio's Moving the Chains, CBS's NFL Today Show. He joined us once again courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and all points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Text the show at 21,000. All right, we've covered a lot of ground so far in the show today. A little baseball, a little golf, a little football. 21,000. Text the show. Miller and Moulton. We thank you so much for listening. Once again, where else but right here on the Florida Sports Network and floridasportsnetwork.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
What's that? Hello?
Yes?
What was that?
One shining moment.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I heard what sounded like a phone line being put on.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Okay.
That wasn't me.
Okay.
The ball is tipped. I live with a husky that is a carbon copy of UConn's logo. I can never look at her the same. I hate that dog.
You know, Nicole Auerbach's got a column on women's basketball. I will read it, but it says it deserves better officiating. Okay. It deserves smarter commentary from the peanut gallery. If a guy would have done that to another guy in a championship game, he would have been given the same crap that Angel Reese was given. Right?
I don't think the vitriol would have been nearly as bad. I think we stereotype women's sports that they behave better.
Okay. He should have been Canada Relief. He's a scumbag. It's the second team he's been kicked off of, by the way. He'd already been kicked off of Arizona State's hockey team before he went to Mercyhurst or wherever he got kicked off of yesterday.
I'm very surprised they haven't replaced the wheelchair. I'm very surprised. It's $2,000, $2,500, something like that. I'm surprised, especially since his dad, who's the interim GM of the Flyers, came out immediately and said my son was in the wrong and this is appalling. And so I'm surprised that the family didn't replace the wheelchair. And I know there's a court case going on. It probably, he's guilty. You admitted he's guilty.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. We'll let Pat rest up his voice, get ready for his own afternoon show. And we're off on Friday, so we may bring Pat back on Thursday if something happens between now and then, but that could be our lone visit with Pat this week until after the Easter holiday. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com.
It is a good point. You said in case something happens. And I'm like, what the hell's going to happen? But the NBA, or rather the NFL, has gone 3-4 days without a lead story. So they are probably due to make something happen, David.
Well, the two things, the two headliners involve quarterbacks. Lamar with Baltimore. I don't think anything's going to happen soon on that front. And I think the Rodgers situation is a poker game in which the draft is the game. Unless the Packers are willing to settle for what it is the Jets want to give them, then that deal could be done beforehand. But otherwise, don't you feel, Mark? The Jets have the 13th overall pick of the draft, and they have, is it 41 and 42, the back-to-back second-round picks?
Right, the back-to-back second-round picks that they just picked up for the receiver they dealt.
And so, to me, that's the poker game. That obviously one of those three picks is involved. Maybe Green Bay is wanting two of them to be involved. Whatever the poker game is. And to me, Mark, it could even come down to Friday night. First round passes on Thursday. Then we have Thursday night. Wake up Friday. The 2 second rounders are on the board there. And these are like the 10th and 11th picks of the second round.
And you've told me we've gone through this exercise. We've played different GMs. And I've said I want both picks. And you've said that's it. If I were Green Bay and wanted both those second rounders, that, in your estimation, would be it as far as what Green Bay would have to give.
No, you mean the
Jets would have to give Green
Bay.
Yes,
I definitely would not give up more than that. Now, the reason, if I'm the Jets, that I don't want to give them both up, besides the obvious, is I think I traded my 3rd round pick away with the wide receiver swap to get that 2nd round pick. So if I give them both away, then I have the 13th pick, and I don't think I have another one until the 4th round. Could be wrong about that, but I thought that's what the Jets depth chart looked like. So, I don't necessarily want to go from Thursday to Saturday without a pick. Especially since Douglas, outside of his top 5 picks, has done pretty darn well in the draft. Thank you very much for the Jets. So, to me, I'm guessing that's the poker game. And the Packers are on the clock Friday. And if the Jets can continue the stare down, I think they can win it. Now, once we get to about 10 o'clock Friday night, then I think the Packers go, well, you know what? Don't even answer the Jets calls. Not interested. Nope. We're turning this sucker around. I was willing to do a deal. They want them. Okay. They're really going to argue with us over a certain draft pick. The heck with them. Because here's the other thing, Mark, which you've talked about for a while. It behooves the Packers to have him on the roster past June 1st. They can defer a lot of this cap hit into the future if they can keep him on the roster to June 1st. Now, you can do a deal in which you could put in it, we're going to do this deal officially on June 2nd. Okay, but you would have to essentially draft the guy in the 2nd round for Green Bay. Like, I don't think they'd let you trade the pick to the Packers Friday night. Okay, you would have to do like they do in the NBA, which is, okay, we've agreed upon the deal. All right, who is it you want? We'll take him. Okay, you want Scottie Pippen? Got it.
Great. And they're actually calling him, don't get too excited. Go put that hat on really quickly, but throw it away because you're going to be a Packer.
Right.
Just to review what David said is right. The first pick is 13. They have 42 and 43 of the 2 second rounders. We were off by 1. No 3rd rounder. And then pick 10 of the 4th round, which is pick 112. And then they have a 5th and a 6th.
So, I'm just going to throw this out there. My guess is the Packers want one of the 2nd rounders this year, and they want a contingency pick in 2024, which is probably no worse than a 3rd rounder, probably a 2nd rounder, which can become a 1st if they make the playoffs. And the Jets are going to hold out for as long as they can to make the price because they don't need them now. Why do the deal now? Hold out 3 more weeks. The Packers may, crack. Do you agree with me that up until about 9 o'clock Friday night, on Friday night of the draft, the Jets have the leverage. And then the minute if the Packers go, well, the hell with you, we're not accepting that deal. And once the Packers walk away beginning Saturday, Green Bay's got the leverage.
I believe that you're right. Although, what does Green Bay do at that point with the leverage that they have? Because now they have a quarterback that they don't want, that doesn't want to be there. So how much leverage do you truly have keeping Aaron Rodgers past Friday, other than the point of keeping him till June 1st saves you a ton of money on the cap? And there's no doubt about that. But, David, there aren't any other partners out there. So I don't know how much leverage either side has at all right now. I think it's a little more equal.
I think if I'm Green Bay, because I want a pick in this year's draft. I want a good pick in this year's draft. And if the Jets won't give me that, well, then you're going to have to pay up, dude. You did not give me a pick in the 2023 draft for Aaron Rodgers. Blank you. Tell you what, okay, 2024, 2025, one of those is a 1st rounder. And that's non-negotiable, by the way. Click.
That's the part that I think you're right on with. That the moment the draft goes by, if it's a 2nd rounder, it becomes a 1st. And the Jets may do that because they think if they get Rodgers, where are they going to be picking? In the 20s. Would you do that deal if you were the Jets? Go buy the draft and give away the 2024 1st round pick?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, I would. if that's all, if I could get them for just the 2024 first rounder, sure. Because then I get 3 of the top 43 picks of this year's draft and Aaron Rodgers. Holy blank, what an offseason that is. No, I'll load up. Besides, like you said, we're going to make the playoffs. That pick's going to be in the 20s. Hell, there's only 18 first rounders in every draft anyway. We're basically giving away a second round player. Whatever. And besides, with all the guys I just signed, probably be good not to pay somebody guaranteed money for 4 or 5 years.
Could I weasel more out of you? First in 2024 and a third in 25.
Yeah, I'd do it. I would. Sure. Let's get this party started. Absolutely.
The only people that it's really going to drive nuts is the media who want this deal to be done an hour ago.
But I think the
And
Jets
Aaron Rodgers.
Right. I think the Jets have a price. Well, see, I don't think it's bothering Rodgers at all. Rodgers, I don't think has any interest in going to Florham Park, New Jersey much before August 1st. He knows the offense. Hell, he ran it for a few years in Green Bay with Hackett as the offensive coordinator under LaFleur. He doesn't need to go to the Jets. The receivers need him more than he needs the offense. So, no, I don't think there's any urgency before August 1st for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. And hell, I might even be able to argue August 15th. Remember, Favre got traded to the Jets, I think it was August 7th. They were 8-3 till he hurt his shoulder. He was fine. They were fine. Running an offense he had never run before, by the way.
A little different. Rodgers needs that chemistry, though, David. Come on. That's all he's talked about the past few years is being in sync with his players, and it's not really all there yet. So he's got to get there sooner than later. I mean, these are Rodgers' own words that will come back to bite him if things aren't going well in New York. Miller and Moulton. 21,000. That's the text line. Your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers or anything else we've discussed right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Yeah, but Nick, if he's not showing up and being a disruptive force at training camp, what the hell does it matter? Honestly. And yeah, you finding out who the Jets fans are who are national TV people. Greeny, Rich Eisen, yes, this has got them consumed. Two guys, by the way, who are hosting the draft for their respective networks.
Greeny's hosting the draft?
Oh, yeah, he did it last year.
I don't use that channel for the draft.
Yep.
I need a computer helper. I've got serious problems with my printer at home. My printer doesn't quit printing. It keeps printing this like code thing. It's driving me absolute nuts.
Oh, I know. Is it just a bunch of boxes? Like
No,
color-
it prints get /ESCL /scanner status. And then HTTP. It just keeps printing the same thing over and over. And
That's weird.
And it doesn't quit printing. Really, even with okay. And I've had the print driver replaced. So what do I do, bad golfer? Who do I call? Ghostbusters? I've done that already once. It didn't work. Thanks, bad golfer.
$30 seconds. $15. There we go.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
It's 22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Seth Everett will join us on the show tomorrow, and our Masters previews will continue. So, getting back to the women's basketball championship game. Haven't talked about it since the first half of the show. 9.9 million is how many people watch, ladies and gentlemen. 9.9 million. That's more people watching LSU Iowa women's basketball than have watched any NHL game in 50 years. That's almost 2 million more than watched this year's Daytona 500. It's more than every bowl game except the Rose Bowl and then the 2 semis in the national championship game. It outrated LSU Alabama. It outrated Alabama A&M CBS's primetime game from last year. It outrated 3 of the 5 conference championship games. Only the SEC and Big Ten title games drew more viewers. And it's a big number. Big. And I don't think it's going to outrate last night's men's game. But, for example, it outrated the UConn-Gonzaga Elite Eight game by 2 million. But, Mark, the controversies that followed, late Sunday, all day yesterday, lingering into today, the First Lady not helping, saying, hey, how about both LSU and Iowa get invites to the White House? And everybody involved in sports is like, well-intended, bad idea. The winners go, the second-place teams don't. It's America. That's how we roll. But how much of the post-game noise do you think is race, and how much do you think is gender?
I think it's a little more gender than race because apparently we hold women in higher regard of how they're supposed to act after games. I would love to have seen a smack talker on the men's side doing something similar and seeing how they would have been lambasted the same way the next day.
Well, in the last 36 hours, many examples have been shown of recent male athletes who did the pointing to the ring finger. All right. Now, whether they were taunting their opponents or they were just doing it to themselves as they were walking off. I mean, Steph started to do it late in Game 6 last year in Boston, pointing at the ring, okay, saying, hey, we're about to win one. And that was to the crowd. Joe Burrow, while at LSU, walking off the field, looking at the sidelines. Now he was looking at his sideline, not Clemson's, but he was, pointing at his ring going, going to add one of these. I think that part of it, the sportsmanship part, is a lot of gender. That, first off, a lot of people who don't watch women's sports and they just think they should be, quote unquote, more ladylike.
Well, and I think we know these numbers show how many people were watching women's basketball for maybe the first time in their life.
Last year's championship game was South Carolina UConn, and it drew less than half the audience. Sunday night ESPN versus Sunday afternoon on ABC.
And this number, while was great for women's basketball, it's a Caitlin Clark number.
Yes.
This was not a women's basketball number. And we have to differentiate. They had a superstar come onto the scene that the national media had been talking about for a while. They were showing games on ABC against Indiana during the regular season.
How many people, because we've been talking about Caitlin Clark on this show for 10 weeks, how many people have basically, when we've brought up Caitlin Clark, kind of patted us on the head going, that's really cute, you guys trying to talk about women's basketball. Nobody cares, okay? She can't be that good. Be honest. How many people were like, yeah, that's really cute and nice of them, but give me a break?
But I mean, the Dan Patrick show, Dan Patrick called her the best shooter in college basketball for a couple of weeks. National shows were pumping this girl. This was a number brought on by her stardom. And then what happens after an unbelievable semifinal performance? She has a good game in the final, not a great game, even by her own standards.
Which is funny because 30 points 8 of 19 from 3. That's better than 40% from beyond the arc. And it's, she was pretty good.
But do you agree with that?
Yeah, listen, if you had said to LSU before the game, we give Caitlin 30, they'd be like, where do we sign? 30 versus 40 or 50? Absolutely. And what they did, and she acknowledged that LSU took away the drives and therefore getting to the free throw line. She scored 24 of her 30 points from beyond the arc. But she did set a record in a championship game for the most made threes. This is the part that I do think was clearly racial. I do think, first off, more white people watch sports than minorities. That's just a fact. If for no other reason, then there's far more white people. But when Caitlin Clark was scoring 41 in the Elite Eight and 41 in the semifinal, and she had her moments of trash talking and the John Cena, you don't see me maneuver and what have you. Okay. There were a lot of people, largely white, okay, who liked it. That reminded her of, Larry Bird.
She's a tough competitor.
Right. Okay. So then the LSU player, Reese. Okay. Now, she went way over the top. Okay. And I do think that the black sportscasters who are commentating right now, none of them are acknowledging that her taunting was on steroids compared to Caitlin Clark's taunting. But I don't think there's any doubt about it. There were a lot of people who were okay with Caitlin Clark and not okay with the LSU player. And I am one of those that is like, if you're going to allow, to me, Mark, once you cross the line to taunting, are we really going to differentiate? That's a 6. That's a 9. I mean, taunting is taunting. If we're going to allow it, to me, taunting is one of those things you either have no tolerance or shut up and deal.
100%. There can't be levels of taunting. You either play the sportsmanship card all the time or you don't play it.
Right. And so, was the LSU player obnoxious? Yeah, absolutely. But hey, that's her thing. That's how she wanted to taunt Caitlin Clark and whoever else that she was talking to, the national media, whatever. That was her thing. Okay. I do think, though, that initially it was gender. It definitely yesterday became race. Oh, my goodness. Very much race. And, Mark, I got to be honest. I think this is a media problem. Okay. Caitlin Clark didn't have a problem with it. Iowa didn't have a problem with it. Their fans may have, but the Iowa players didn't. All right. The Iowa coach didn't. The LSU players had largely moved on. To me, who took this, which I still think is in the best interest of women's basketball because there's no such thing as bad attention. But, who took this story and made it the number one story in sports yesterday? I mean, it totally dominated the sports scene yesterday, and the men's final was pushed very much to the side. It was an afterthought, really. It was such a forefront thing, Mark. How many people during the men's game were going, I wish we'd go back talking about the women. In fact, could you show us that game from yesterday again instead of this?
And then just show us the end, and we'll talk about the taunting some more. And I'm of the opinion that Reese was obnoxious with their taunting. It was,
yes.
It was since we had David Samson on earlier and I brought up Spinal Tap, this one goes to 11. Yes, it did.
And it was shocking also. I mean, and even after the game, I mean, clearly she and or they were bothered by Caitlin Clark and or Iowa. and all the
attention that they
yes.
received? Absolutely.
And maybe, they got worked up into a frenzy. LSU was the underdog in that game. Iowa was a 3-point favorite. Maybe that bothered LSU. They're like, we lost twice all year. Give me a break. But I do think all in all, it's still good for women's sports and women's college basketball. There are some people that think that yesterday actually was not good. I think the level of officiating was actually the biggest of everything that's taken place, Mark, in the last 40 hours involving that game. I still think the officiating is the worst part of it. Even worse than all that came yesterday.
And I know you do, and you're right in a lot of your reasons. The only problem with your theory, and it's not really a problem, the only thing I would say is that everybody, even those who are all into the game and don't worry about the taunting and all the talk, there's not anybody out there that says, well, if the officiating would have been good, Iowa would have won. It was such a one-sided contest that if it would have been a close game, you're right that the officiating would still be at the forefront.
But they had 10 million people on average watching that game, and the officials ruined a lot of the enjoyment, both ways, by the way. And I think going forward, we're still going to have black-white issues. We're still going to have sportsmanship debates. We're still going to have taunting. In fact, we may have more of it going forward. But I do think, listen, when the former head of NCAA officiating came out last night and issued a statement as to how badly that game was officiated, that's a big problem. And I do believe for the sport going forward, it needs to be fixed. For the longest time, the level of play in women's basketball was so poor, you couldn't address the officiating issue because the officiating, while not good, was better than the product. The product is far superior to what it's ever been. It is now at a level that is far superior to the officiating. The officiating has to be fixed.
Can it be?
Yes.
Because this is something you've railed on for a long time. I know no one really,
Right. This is my baby. I've did women's hoops for 40 years. There's no doubt. But yes, I think it can be fixed. There's actually elements to the women's game that Jay Billis and others are thinking the men have to do. They love the 10-minute quarters. They love moving the ball to midcourt. Late in the final minute of a game, you can call timeout, move the ball to midcourt. That's hotly debated. But also, I think there's a limit on the number of timeouts you can use late in a game in women's hoops versus men's.
Just quickly, would you want the men to – I don't care about the quarters. If they switch to quarters, that's fine with me. But the half-court thing, it's like 1 foot in NCAA and 2 feet in the NFL. I don't know if I want them coming to half-court. I'd like there to be some subtle differences between the college game and the pro game.
And I'm with you on that. I do like the quarters is much better. Having broadcast, men and women in the last few years in which, one plays by quarters and the other plays by halves, the game has a much better flow to it in quarters than it does in halves. Much better flow. Also, there's one less commercial per half. And quite frankly, with as few people that's watching college basketball, okay, you don't need that many commercial breaks. Honestly. You don't. Sorry.
Less commercials? Come on now.
You can charge $12 instead of 10. Okay, that's all. Same amount per game. You're just getting 1 or 2 less spots. Suck it up. There's 1 million people tops watching. You know the audience you're buying.
And it's the same every single year for college hoop. Their audience hasn't changed. It's just gotten a little bit smaller as time goes on. Tampa, St. Pete, Lake City, Venice, Port Charlotte. We'll do this all over again tomorrow morning. The bonus hour coming up next in the 239 right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6, and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Holy blank.
I did not realize that I was coming to the Gulf Coast Showcase last year or next year.
DC, I say that because the officiating was bad both ways. The fouls were really close. Outside of the tee, they called on Caitlin Clark, which put her fourth. I mean, they've called the fouls on Reese. They called fouls badly both ways in that game.
30 seconds. Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Bonus hour, Miller and Moulton, on this first Tuesday of April. It's my wife's birthday today. All right. She didn't want a thing. That's not true. Actually, I correct myself. She wants a pair of binoculars.
What about a pink golf cart?
Well, I mean, that's, fully blinged out too, which my wife would turn into a trash talking machine. All right. Driving around the neighborhood. That's my wife's idea of, hey, we've made it big. She was talking about winning the whole Powerball Mega Millions last night. And she brought that up. She said, I'll treat myself to that blinged out golf cart. I go, boy, you are a party animal at 4 miles an hour.
Boy, she'll be something once she gets to the Villages.
I know. This is how she is at 53. Boy, can't wait to see what she's like at 63 and 73. Man, what? I was talking to her
Did you
mom.
get her the binoculars?
I'm going to later today. Okay, she doesn't even want me to get her a card. And she told me that. She said, do not spend the money on a card. That will annoy me.
I don't have that luck. My wife, as you know, sends everyone. I mean, her friends and not even close friends. If you're on her friend list, you're getting an actual birthday card in the mail from my wife.
Whew.
Well, I thought you, of all people, would be respectful of that because it means she has to put a stamp on something and occasionally go to the post office, which, two things you're a big fan of, stamps and the post office.
I know, and I am. But I just realized that your wife spends about $200 a year on cards.
Yeah. And because I know I have to get her cards, the one thing that Publix always does, whether it's Mother's Day, Father's Day, they always have the BOGO cards out there during the season. So I'll grab like the Mother's Day card and go, ooh, good time to get a birthday card now too with the other card. Went into a drawer the other day. I'm good for my wife's birthdays for the next 4 years.
Huh.
Found a bunch of birthday cards that I have forgotten to give her.
Great.
So I'm in good shape. Could have given it, if I'd have known, I would have just sent you one. You could have given it to your wife.
Right. And gotten yelled at for it. So I was told no card. However, she wants a pair of binoculars, which of course begs the question, why?
Thank you. I was getting there.
So what's the only reason that you can think of for wanting a pair of binoculars?
Well, she doesn't answer the front door, so I'm guessing so she can see who's at the front door from a long distance away, David.
Nope. The
Bird watching?
The hole's too small. Nope. Nope.
Is she going to start voyeuring your neighbors? I mean, is this...
There you go. There you go. She wants to spy on the neighbors. Yep, we live in a third-floor condo. Okay, we overlook a beautiful pond, nice scenery. Okay, it's very nice. Okay, there are houses across the way. She is convinced someone in one of the houses is spying on us.
Oh, so this is
So
not
she
spying. This is more of little R&D here. She needs to see who's looking at me.
Exactly. So we're going to have dueling spying stare downs. This is going to be worse than the Jets-Packers stare down right now.
If you found that someone was spying on you with binoculars into your place, how would you handle it?
With laughter.
I would get the same binoculars and get a pair of tighty whities that were 2 sizes too small, sit on my porch with those underwear, and just be staring at them in the binoculars.
I would propose to my wife that we begin something inappropriate on the lanai. When she shot down that advance, then I'm with you. I would, I don't know, hold up signs. You know, I'd look like Gus
The
Mouse.
baseball teams are going to have to start using because you can't get the signs in fast enough. One of Tony the Tiger.
Yep.
Maybe pie. And then a couple of pictures of arbitrary people.
See, you know, my fear, though, is that, you know, everybody's using their phone to tape. So I don't want to do something inappropriate back and have somebody post it. I don't need that. You know, trying to. Here's the other thing, though. My wife watches a lot of these police shows. So she's convinced that whoever is across the way is not just a voyeur, that they're like a member of a cartel.
In Jacksonville?
Thank you. That's the point that I tried to make. I'm like, listen, we live in an older community. In Jacksonville, I don't think the cartel's particularly worried about who and what we're doing.
I mean, I know that she thought she was Ruth from Ozark for a while, but that was a television show, and she's not involved in running of heroin in the greater Jacksonville area, as far as I'm aware.
Right. We left that in Southwest Florida. Right. We're done with the heroin. Correct. So, yes, I have to get her a pair of binoculars. She said before she got up and left for the day, she popped her head in during a commercial break and said, "You getting the binoculars?" I go, "Yes, I am, honey. They'll be very romantic." By the way, we did the show last Thursday in St. Pete. You know, I was gone for about 24 plus hours. I figured, you know, I'll be gone. Tell you what I'll do. I'll get a haircut on my way back. So instead of saying I'm going to be back at such and such a time, make it an hour later, stop off, get a haircut. Clearly, having been gone for over 24 hours and my hair, which had gotten pretty long for me, okay, getting it cut, in which, you know, all the salt, a good chunk of salt disappears, and now all of a sudden there's pepper again. Clearly that would be noticed. No. Nope. So I'm not allowed to get her a card, not allowed to do anything, you know, romantic. Doesn't even notice when I get a haircut, even after I leave town and come back. But I have to get her binoculars so she can spy on the drug cartel neighbors who she's convinced are spying on us. I'm like, you're sitting here watching repeats of FBI. Trust me, if they were spying on us, they've moved on.
Yes. You're not that interesting. Good to know, though, that the wife can keep the conspiracy theories going in and around the house. Adds a little zest to the life, David.
Well, also, I can't believe I'm contributing now to, wait, we're going to return the voyeurism? So you're going to stand there in your old person robe, okay? And you're literally going to be on your binoculars. Third-story condo, by the way. It's pretty visible.
Probably should get those night vision ones too. Military grade so she can see at night.
A military grade binocular. How much money am I going to be spending on this, by the way? I'd much rather buy the $4 or $5 card. Some Hershey's Kisses. I mean,
quick search page. The new pair, the best binoculars on the market will cost you around $1,500.
What? What? Is there a knockoff? Is there? Take my breath away here.
I mean, you can get a cheaper pair for you. I think you might be able to get out for a couple $100.
For goodness sakes, I might as well buy the golf cart. How much more is the golf cart?
You'll get a lot more out of the golf cart, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but you could drive over to the damn house you want to spy on, introduce yourself, say hi.
Because she's going to be done spying by tomorrow when she figures out that they're not spying on her, and she'll never use the binoculars again.
This is
like buying a treadmill, for crying out loud. You just can't put the clothes on it.
Right. And I am going to take those binoculars out every day. I'm going to put them on the kitchen table. Here you go with your dinner. Here's your binoculars. Oh, no,
maybe she'll start being a bird watcher. Maybe there's something else she can get into because of the binoculars. Maybe you found a new hobby for her.
Yeah, I was hoping she could act older. That's what I was hoping for. That's what I was. She's 53 going on 83. All right. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping she could take up more hobbies that, like, for older people. Yes, that would be great. Honestly, I mean, if she's on the lanai with binoculars, I mean, aren't people going to like call the cops?
One would think, particularly when she's staring into other condos with the binoculars. She's not looking at the lake. She's not looking in the trees at birds. She's staring at your neighbors.
What are you doing? I'm spying on the neighbors across the way.
Why?
Because I think they're part of the cartel.
And they're spying on me.
Yeah, they started it.
Do you have any proof? No, I just thought so.
Right. By the way, you want to sit and want to watch another cop show with me? I'm big into conspiracy theories.
At this point, David, you can throw in a ghillie suit for a couple $100. You know, those like suits that are bushes. You know, ghillie suit.
You definitely should get her something camo too. I know because you can't, you know, since you have to get the binoculars,
yes,
go to Bass Pro today and find a good lightweight hunting camo for her so that she has the proper clothing.
Yes.
You know, because you might as well make a mockery of it. If you're getting the damn binoculars, you might as well go the whole 9 yards on this one.
Totally. And I'll get myself a camo outfit. And you know what I'll do? One of the first times she's on the binoculars, I'll leave the condo, I'll go across the pond, and I'll sit in their backyard.
Doing a little recon.
Yep. And when the neighbors come out and go, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm staring at my wife who's spying on you."
Oh, you guys are so close to a letter from the HOA. You don't even know what's coming. It's going to hit you right between the eyes. Then you're going to have to go to a board meeting and appear. They're going to threaten to throw you out of your condo.
That'd be great. And I'll be the one sitting in the back going, no, you got to drop the hammer. Lay down the law with her. Whatever you do, just take the damn binoculars away.
She's a law and order person. I can't believe she's this brazen with breaking laws and voyeuring on the neighbors because she thinks they're spying on her.
Right. Like they're spying on us. Right. Mm-hmm. Got an 82-year-old mother-in-law. Might as well have an 83-year-old wife. And then there's me who's eating off his lap.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. FLGolfCarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, FLGolfCarts.com. FLGolfCarts.com.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn. Something for everyone. On 5th Avenue in Naples.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Hops. So we go for a walk most every night. And, we're 80, 90% done with the walk. And we're coming up on the area, the houses that are on the other side of the pond. And so every time I go, well, why don't we just go over and walk down the street? And she looks at me like, no. And I go, well, why? You want to stand on the lanai with binoculars and spy on these people? I go, why don't we walk down the street? Maybe we'll run into some of them. I go, hell, why don't we just knock on a door? Say hi. Oh, no, can't do that. Oh, but you can stand there in your robe and just, be a voyeur. So what's a cheap pair of binoculars?
150, $200.
Holy mackerel.
For anything any good. What, do you think you were getting off for $50?
I don't know. I didn't think so, but I just... My mom's listening. She's like, oh, man, I got her a card. I'm like, no. You're fine getting her a card. It's okay if others get her a card. I'm apparently not allowed to get her a card.
Yeah, about $150.
Man.
Could have had this ordered on Amazon, already delivered. Wouldn't have had to leave the house today.
Yeah, really. Can't do that anymore. Yeah, pawn shop. That's true. So I should go to an Army Navy store. I should go to
Bass Pro Shop.
Bass Pro Shop.
That's your easiest and best bet.
Son of a...
Or Walmart, for that matter.
There's a word for that in Spanish. Wanting to know what's going on with everything. It's called the chismosa.
Gesundheit. Call her an HOA busybody. I like that, Arch. You could have used the binoculars at the end. Interesting things to look at the old house.
I know.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
$21 past the hour. Bonus hour of Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when, along with our final thoughts. All coming up. The madness is over. The Masters gets underway in a little under 48 hours. By the way, we were talking the end of the madness late in last hour. And someone in our Twitch chat room pointed out that Caitlin Clark in Iowa is coming to Fort Myers Thanksgiving. The Gulf Coast Showcase at Hertz Arena. That Friday, Saturday, Sunday after Thanksgiving. Yeah, Iowa's in it. Along with North Carolina. I mean, be curious whether or not, Caitlin Clark comes to your backyard. Now it's a busy weekend. It's Thanksgiving. So, some people leave town. A lot of people have family come to town. I get it. Plus, it's rivalry weekend in college football. I mean, I get it. But
it's Caitlin Clark. This is the
right.
Must-see women's basketball player. There's no one that's more must-see right now in that sport than she is.
Right. So you're going to go. You got to figure they're going to play at night. Got to figure they're Friday night, Saturday night, right? And then they'll play in the championship or third place game, which will be right around dinner time, early evening Sunday. So, you got the dueling Thanksgiving college hoops tournaments. Gulf Coast Showcase at Hertz Arena. Got the Fort Myers tip-off over at FSW there.
But the biggest draw in the sport will be at Hertz Arena for the women's tournament.
So I'll be curious if, make a mental note of it and see how many of you actually check it out. I know Sunday's an NFL day, Saturday's rivalry weekend in college football. No, I got you. There's a bunch of reasons, family, Thanksgiving. No. Bunch of reasons for you not to go. But 10 million of you watched the championship game Sunday afternoon. A lot of you did it because of her.
Most of you. No one was tuning that in to watch South Carolina or LSU. They were watching Caitlin Clark. She drew 11 million people, for crying out loud.
Peaked at 12.5. Average 10. That's a lot.
For women's college basketball.
No.
As we've pointed out on the show, that blows away most every other television rating out there. Unless you're getting deep into the – basically in baseball, you got to get to the World Series. In the NBA, you got to get to the NBA Finals to get those type of numbers.
Yeah, I think that's right around what Game 7 Heat Celtics of the conference finals was last year. It was right there with that. But otherwise, yeah, you're talking NBA Finals. By the way, higher rated than the 2020, the pandemic NBA Finals, when it was Lakers and Heat. higher rated than that NBA Finals, which granted was in the fall and it was up against other things, but still. There has not been an NHL game that had 10 million people watch it in 50 years. 50. You know, when there were 3 channels.
It did, according to what I have, it did better than last year's NBA playoffs, except for the NBA Finals. Every game of the Major League Baseball postseason, except for the World Series. Every NASCAR race since 2017, including the 500. That's heady stuff.
Yeah, no question. And she's coming to Southwest Florida Thanksgiving weekend. How many of you will make plans accordingly?
Wonder if they can get that event televised.
Probably not. My guess is they'd have to buy the time with like a CBS Sports Network type of situation, but who knows? I mean, maybe the 4-letter network is going to check out Iowa's women's schedule and they're going to figure out how many of these they can do. This would be a good opportunity because the Fort Myers tip-off's a Fox property. So if you're the Gulf Coast Showcase here, that's another reason to head towards Disney. You know, got to go like, hey, put you head-to-head with those guys. Although, and here's the other thing, Mark. If you're the 4-letter network, Iowa's obviously in what conference?
The Big Ten.
And beginning this year, you don't have the contract for Big Ten football and Big Ten basketball. This would be a chance. Like, I don't know how many opportunities they're going to have to show Caitlin Clark, to be honest. I don't know if that crosses over into women's hoops, but this would be a chance. Now, it's a busy weekend for the 4-letter network, all the football that they have, etc. But just throwing that out there.
They've always had that tournament where the men played before Thanksgiving, the women play after. They won't, but if they could have switched it, those games were Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I think you'd really be into ESPN trying to get a game or two on. But you're right, with all the football that happens that weekend, pretty tough to upend football on Thanksgiving weekend from a network standpoint.
But do you schedule Iowa to play Sunday night at 7:00 no matter what? Or do you give them just such an easy road that they'll be in the title game Sunday at 7? And do you put it on? You know, the 4:00 game's ending and Sunday Night Football not starting until 8:20. Do you put Caitlin Clark on at 7:30, and that's your counter programming?
Or do you just run reruns of bowling? That's
There
a
you
decision
go.
you'll have to make.
Bull riding, baby. Bull riding.
Camo and binoculars. David's gift for his wife for her birthday so she can become the spy she has always wanted to be.
Unbelievable. My wife convinced that there's illegal activity going on across the pond. And I don't mean in Great Britain. By the way, Harry went back last week and just kind of snuck in, showed up in court for a few days, went back to the cottage that he's being evicted from. Okay, and apparently everybody was too busy to see each other. I love this dysfunctional family. This is spectacular. Come on. No matter how messed up your family is, it ain't the royal family, baby. They're a mess. It's awesome.
They're
Guys,
a mess. It's awesome. I quote one
Guys
David Moulton.
He's getting crowned king, and they're terrified that the youngest child, along with the biracial divorcee actress, are going to upstage him just by showing up, negotiating who's going to sit where. Are the kids going to get prominently mentioned or not? Love it. He's king of damn England, and apparently he doesn't have hand. The queen had hand, I'll tell you that.
That I'll agree with you on. I don't get into the Royals nearly as much as you do. I'd prefer the Kansas City Royals.
Right.
But you are right in that the Queen had hand and that the King does not appear to have the same hand that the Queen did.
Dude,
In fact, for most of his life, the King had to use his hand.
Right. Dude, you're king. You're king.
It's good to be the king.
It used to be. Apparently not so much anymore. I'm just trying to figure out, is Charles, are they the Jets or the Packers? Harry and Meghan. They're Aaron Rodgers, don't you think?
Yes. 100%.
And King Charles would like to trade their ass, but he can't get any takers.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn. Something for everyone. On 5th Avenue in Naples.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. By the way, I think it's a sure sign that that pickleball slam did no TV numbers because we've heard nothing about it yet. Nothing.
I went to a restaurant where they were playing it, and they turned it off for Night and Day, featuring Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz on FX. I think people asked for it to be turned off. It's a lot worse to watch on TV than it is to play.
It's a participant sport.
It's fun, though.
I'm not
Yeah, I know. I
No,
know
no,
you're
no.
not saying it's not fun.
You didn't hear what I said. It's a participant sport. It's
Y-
not
right.
something that people are going to go watch in mass droves. It's not something people are going to go to. These big tournaments that they have could draw thousands of participants. It's like the Gus Mack. Back in the day, there was a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, the Gus Macker, where you could have put a team in, and played different. I played in them all the time. Thousands of people participated. Thousands of people went down to just check out the scene to watch it. No one would ever watch that crap on television.
Right. 3v3 basketball.
Right.
No.
Doesn't mean it's not
right.
something that's cool and fun. I mean, but
yeah.
Hey, I was just saying there, you were at your headsets off. That pickleball slam must have had no viewers.
I made a bet with somebody as to, what you were talking about with the Gus Macker. It's kind of like, I'm not going to watch it on TV. I know many people are playing it nowadays. That's great. I'm not going to watch it on TV.
And David, I said that I was at a restaurant where it was playing at a big TV behind the bar, and they turned it off for Night and Day, featuring Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. That was on FX. Ten seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
$22 minutes till the top of the hour, 16 minutes until we're out of here. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Seth Everett will join us tomorrow. We'll continue our Masters previews with a golf guest. Got calls out to many. I'm sure one of them will say yes. So that's tomorrow.
Rainy Masters is expected. The only sunshine in the forecast is for Sunday afternoon. It is supposed to rain Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Heavy rains at times. Cool weather. So the Masters will not look like it normally looks. Ron Sirak was on the show earlier, talked about no course on the planet can deal with the elements better than Augusta National, but still it will really transform what the course is going to be over the course of the next few days. And that's certainly something we will keep paying attention to.
It's time for someone to take back this segment, if for no other reason than to stop David from talking about Meghan and Harry. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
1789, David, the first Congress begins its regular sessions during George Washington's presidency. 1841, John Tyler becomes our 10th president after the death of William Henry Harrison. 1917, the Senate agrees by the count of 82-6 to participate in World War I. More for Miller and Moulton here. Today in 1922, WAAB in Baton Rouge becomes the first U.S. radio stations with a W as its call letters.
WAAB.
It was the fourth Masters today in 37. Byron Nelson wins. 1964, the Beatles' Can't Buy Me Love goes number 1, would stay there for 5 weeks. Martin Luther King is assassinated today in 68. Hank Aaron ties Babe Ruth's 714 in Cincinnati off of Jack Billingham today in 74.
And then they held him out for like a week. You know, because he homered on opening day, and they let him finish that game, and then they basically said, yeah, you're breaking the record at home. And so they held him out, I think, a few days.
Today in 75, these two guys named Bill Gates and Paul Allen developed this company called Microsoft. Wonder how that would do. 83, Lorenzo Charles dunks the basketball. The putback from the air ball, and North Carolina State defeats Houston.
Billy Packer. They won the game on the dunk.
86, Gretzky sets an NHL record with 213 points.
When didn't he set a record?
Exactly. Danny Manning and the Jayhawks today in 88.
Danny and the Miracles.
Today in 89, Tommy John sets a record of playing in 26 seasons. Yanks beat the Twins. First game at the Jake in Cleveland was today in 94. Just to tell you how old that stadium is already. 05, North Carolina beats Illinois for their 4th natty. Connecticut in 2011 takes down Butler. And in 2016, Nova beats North Carolina. Tris Speaker, Muddy Waters, Gil Hodges, Anthony Perkins, Clive Davis, Pat Burns, Lamb Jones, Heath Ledger, and Grumpy Cat were all born today.
I love the Grumpy Cat edition. Rest in peace to Grumpy Cat.
I agree, Felipe. I agree.
One of the first cat memes in internet history.
Golfer Joanne Carter's 84 today. The coach, Craig T. Nelson, is 79. Ray Fosse is 76. Jack Del Rio is 60. Robert Downey Jr. is 58. David Blaine is 50. And Jamie Lee Spears is 32. And that, David, was the day when? What did I miss?
Maya Angelou was born on this day 95 years ago. 10 years ago today, Roger Ebert died. And 50 years ago today, the World Trade Center opened. At the time, the world's tallest buildings.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
We go to Jersey for the good. Salem, New Jersey, to be exact, where William Samil called for an Uber ride. He's 73. Tim Leitz was his driver. They had about a 40-minute drive because he had a medical appointment. Started chit-chatting. And Samuel said his kidney functions were becoming less and less. That's when the driver of the car said, God must have put you in my car. If you take my name and number, I'll donate a kidney to you. Several weeks later, they were a match, and he donated his kidney. What kind of rating do you, I mean, there's only a 5-star rating that you can give here, David. You can't go much higher than he gave you a kidney.
Right. A lot comes with that, by the way, besides eternal gratefulness. Meals, drinks, cutting in line. Actually allowed to have like 13 items in the 10-item line.
Damn right.
True story. I'm at the grocery store yesterday. I had 12 items. I go into the normal line, and I'm behind a couple people. And they got a lot of stuff. And the lady looks and says, oh, well, you can just go in the line next door. I said, the hell I can. She goes, well, why? I said, I have 12 items.
Yes.
She just looked away in disgust like, oh, you're one of those. I'm like, yes. Yes.
A rule follower, not a rule breaker, ma'am. And I'll be getting binoculars later so my wife can stare into other people's homes to see if they're staring at me.
Right. But when it's my turn to get in line, I'll get in the right damn line.
For the bad, we go to Maine, where you never know what's going to happen when you go out for a jog. A 43-year-old woman was preparing for a jog on the Whistle Stop Trail when she was charged by a cow.
Yeah, that'll make the whistle stop.
The cow lifted her off the ground with its horns, causing a cut that required stitches before the jogger escaped. Apparently, the cow had escaped a nearby farm and went attacking joggers. For the ugly, we go to Immokalee.
You don't think it's because the cow knows you shouldn't be jogging? It's a waste.
I think the cow was disgusted by it. In Immokalee, an intoxicated person was seen on surveillance video at the Seminole Casino after a day of drinking, passing out on a bench right outside the casino's main entrance.
Okay.
Enter Jose Morales. He stumbled into the passed out subject and, without considering the ramifications, reached right into the man's front pocket and stole his wallet.
Oh, come on, dude.
Good news for the man is that the security cameras are always looking.
Sure, got that right.
And Morales was detained, and he is currently in the Immokalee Pokey. And that is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, April the 4th, 2023.
I used to ridicule David for the express lane Publix thing, but I had an experience the other day, and I was mad. I was pissed.
Okay, how many items did they have?
She had a basket with like 20 things. Like, she made sure to stuff every inch of that basket with things.
Here's a little bit of advice for you. If you want to be a real jerk, you just start counting the items out loud.
Absolutely. Out loud. Yes.
You just start going 1, 2, 3.
What are you doing?
1, 2.
I'm just.
And then you just look up at the sign.
All right, 10 items or less.
It's only if you want to be a real jerk.
I was just mesmerized.
So you didn't say a word?
No. In fact, a gap opened up in the next aisle, and I just cut her off. I quickly dashed forward. I did a little Euro step. Boom, I was in.
He traveled. Okay.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
Cut in line. Now, I would have stayed behind her just to heckle her the entire time.
Of course you would.
Yeah. Oh, no. Come on. It's rude. It's rude. You're that rude. Important. You're that important. I know that it says 10 items or less, but I'm Patty. I'm important. Okay. I have 23 items. My items are more important than yours. I'm more important than you. The hell with you. I need to be waited on. How and when I want to be waited on. Okay. You got it. You are important. I'm going to broadcast every item you have. Hey, toilet paper number 12.
I created a monster with this.
What's on tap?
I feel somewhat responsible for this because this is a pet peeve of mine that David realized that I was on the right side of the law with this one.
Now, listen, it bothered me, but you're right. Us doing this together took me over the edge. Yes. Now I enjoy it. I mean, my life doesn't have a lot of, fun, happiness to it, Okay, so I love it. I love it when the 18-item person's in front of me.
And I actually did it on mistake because the balloons were all over the lights and I couldn't see the under 10. And someone looked at me. I picked up every item off of the thing. I was the next person. I picked up every item, threw them in my basket, apologized to everyone. And they're like, no, stay. I'm like, no, I can't.
No, absolutely
Breaks every
not.
rule I have as a man.
Right. This is like mistakenly parking in a handicap spot, getting out and realizing you're in the spot. Do you get back in the car and move? Damn
Yes.
right you do.
Big hockey games tonight. Florida Panthers fighting for their playoff lives host the Sabres. The Penguins are on the road at New Jersey.
Pittsburgh leads Florida by a point. Buffalo's got 2 games in hand on both the Panthers and the Penguins. If Buffalo were to beat the Panthers, they actually control their playoff destiny the rest of the way. Meanwhile, if Florida wins and Pittsburgh loses, not only does Florida vault into the wild card, they'd actually vault into the first wild card spot. They'd be tied with the Islanders with 4 to play, and they have more regulation wins. Buffalo at Florida has never meant more, ever, in the nearly 30-year history of the franchise.
There's all kinds of NHL games tonight, but those are the 2 that matter.
Yeah, there's 11 NHL games tonight. There's 13 NBA games tonight. The Heat clinging to hope that they could avoid the play-in. They're in Detroit. They need Brooklyn to lose at home to the T-Wolves desperately. Magic are hosting Cleveland. If Cleveland wins, they clinch the 4 seed. That's home court in the first round of the playoffs. And Boston at Philly. Embiid trying to win an MVP. Sixers entertaining the idea of still overtaking the Celtics for the 2 seed. Boston actually entertaining the idea of overtaking Milwaukee for the 1 seed.
Heat are 12.5-point favorites tonight, taking on the Pistons in that one, while the T-Wolves are a 1-point favorite in Brooklyn.
T-Wolves have had a couple of bad losses lately after making a nice run. Baseball, Twins at Miami. Marlins are 1-4. Twins are 4-0, which ties them with the Rays. Tampa Bay, first 4-0 start in franchise history. 7:05 first pitch in Washington against the Nats. There is a nationally televised baseball game tonight. Phillies Yankees, 7:05 TBS. If you're so inclined. If you want to see whether or not, in fact, right now, Mark, 7:05, you figure first pitch will be closer to like 7:08, 7:10. All right. Will the game be over by 10 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, if you say so.
Yes.
It is the Yankees after all. You know, Phillies can swing the bats a little bit, but okay, you say over by 10. Phillies are winless, by the way, 0-4.
I think they win today, by the way.
Oh, look at that.
So there's a little bit of what's going on today and tonight around basketball, hockey, and baseball. Seth Everett on the program tomorrow, as well as our continuing coverage of the Masters. Thanks so much for listening. We'll do it all over again, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Ladies and gentlemen,